we're back on the record. We have a full house, all 9 members of the council here. After a short break.
So, council members, just picking up with this ordinance 3.4. Any questions for Mr. McCann or other comments related to this abatement application? Councilman Young, you said you had several things. Or?
What's the reason why there's no affordable housing?
Well, the project wasn't planned to have affordable housing from the very beginning. You know, it might have been one thing if the application was dealt with right after December when it was filed, but now that we're at the critical stage where the project needs to either start construction or not, it's going to start construction in August. So we need to, move forward with the project as is. So it's a market rate project. I will say to you though that there have been 2 other applications filed by Newport, tax abatement applications, filed in the past 2 months for projects that do have affordable housing in them. I'll just say that for now, but they were filed.
2 applications filed with the city?
There are. So the other projects are projects that were approved in the 80s pursuant to an NJHMFA tax abatement, which is now expiring. So what...
Councilperson Ridley?
Back up a second. You said that there's 2 projects right now, like with planning, you're saying, or where?
No, they already exist.
Saying that they were already.
We're asking for, they're going to renovate the projects. They have affordable housing in them, and they're going to expand the affordable housing in these 2 other projects, renovate the buildings.
It's a rehab.
It's a rehab.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
This is already
Which we've done before.
Right.
The buildings are already exist.
No, this project.
This project? Yes, Councilman. This project passed planning. It's in the construction office already, the Office of the Construction Code Official.
Can I say?
Councilman Young.
So, the past 6 years, I see there are a lot of different tax abatement plans also. So I'd like to share with my colleague and business administration and the law department. This is the worst financial agreement I ever see in my life. The last 6 years. If you see the concept you bring up is actually pretty new. We never actually give annual surcharge fee or to board aware. That's the first time you guys offer like that kind of gesture, and they're looking for tax abatement. But if you see some analysis, I like to all the council members, if you pay attention a little bit, it's a little bit better. So 20s over the 20 years, they're going to plan to contribute around $33 million for aware. But this project, if they pay by conventional tax, they pay around $57 million. If you $57 million, we have to separate how much municipal, how much city, how much school, county, then city around $27 million, school gets around $30 million, county gets around $30 million, just approximately. So that means Board of Ed needs to get the $30 million by conventional tax. They get around the $33 million by this pilot program. But then we look at a different way. So now, by this, so school get $33 million. Let me see this one. If conventional tax, the school get the $30 million, and if a city get $27 million conventional tax, but if we say, assuming we give $20 million to school, then you know what's going to be happening? Instead we get, by this pilot suggestion, instead the city get around the $920,000, we even get $7 million. So your proposal, if anybody has a basic math knowledge, this is the worst to see. I mean, suggestion I have said already. So based on your plan, city over the 20 years, when we get the fee, 2% of fee, $920,000. $920,000. But conventional tax, we get 27. So we get $27 million. The school get the 13, so we give to like a $20 million school. So school get the $33 million, the way you say, and the still we city get the $7 million, not $920,000. So you're actually proposal very, very unacceptable. So don't even dream, don't even think, because the number didn't lie. And another one, if you see that, I don't know why we have to. It's a part of the things is that I feel like I waste my time, but I do because with all respect, that they put a lot of work. If we see that the municipal cost, what we provide, if you see this one, really, I'm going to cry. Over the 20 years, city going to be losing $26 million for providing municipal service. So now, if they conventional tax, the city get $23 million, school get around the $30-40 million, so total they come at $37 million. But if you pilot program, city lose around the $3 million, school get $33 million, but over the years, we get $29 million, so almost a $60 million difference. So we try to look at it. If you come up with different numbers, then maybe we look into. But the way they come up numbers at 13% to annual service charge, go to school, unacceptable. Also,
Is it 13% annual service charge? Is that what we're-
So what was proposed is 12%. The mayor's executive order has 13% in it, so we proposed 1% below. But again, Councilman, the idea here was to get the funding to the Board of Education, in this case, rather than the city. That was the idea. For years, the criticism of tax abatements has been that 100% of the service charge goes to the city and no money to the Board of
because of
Education.
that, you say right.
The idea was here maybe to just rectify it with either one tax abatement or maybe a series of tax abatements that might help the Board of Education in this particular case. And it's fully negotiable. So if you came back and said, because the power is all yours in this case, so if you said 100% to the Board of Education is a bad idea, so maybe 60%.
Okay.
That was the concept. You're free to reject it if you want. But that was
we use that this pilot program to funding for Board of Ed. I recommendation pay full conventional tax, then city council looking to give some dollars for the school. That's the proper way. Because other than that, we're gonna lose over the $6 million, $7 million over the 20 years. Not only that, if we see that the project, if we see that the apartment rental price, which way look at it, tax abatement is that it's a subsidized program by normal regular taxpayer. If you see, the apartment 1 bedroom, 2,700, and like a 3 bedroom, 8,000, 7,000. I mean, we still have to be subsidized a guy who able to pay $8,000 a monthly rent. I mean, I think it's too much. And the municipal service we provide, the way we're losing money, because the city only get 20,000 over the 2 years, 20 years, but municipal service we provide close to $26 million. I mean, are we really not to do that? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, when I read that the Sunday, instead that I go somewhere, spend the time to my lovely wife, and when I look at this one, I say, come on, it's too much, really. So municipal service, we talk about around $882,000 a year. That's our cost to provide. Fire, schools, street cleaning, snow plow, all those things, around $882,000.
But Councilman, again, Newport does their own snow plowing. They handle all their own garbage. They maintain all their own streets, with the exception, just to be fair, of Washington Boulevard and Pavonia Avenue. So that, whatever analysis it is that you're looking at is mostly true, but not 100% true for the Newport redevelopment area.
Service, now we not provide the snow plowing. We got a responsive police. We got a responsive firefighter. It's
Yes.
not
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So the snow plowing, you guys are voluntarily doing that. If you guys don't want to do it, please don't do it. We'll do it. And also, you guys set up the meters in that area. I just heard that. Remove the motor that out. Because how the hell they put your public street, put your their own private meter, collect the money from the public street?
Because they're private streets right now.
Private street?
They're private streets, yes.
Private street?
It was never turned over to the city.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything except Washington
If they're
Boulevard and
private street,
Pavonia are private streets,
usually
open
clean
to the
snow.
public.
Why we pick up the cost of the private street snow, some of the snow? Nobody cleaned them out.
They only do Washington.
Okay, so now this is what it is. It's simple. So if we municipal cost is almost $800,000, okay? And what we get $90-some thousand a year, and we lost around $1.3 million a year. We lost the money, revenue. And if we 20 years, over the 20 years, we're going to municipal service wise $27 million. We provide the municipal service without nothing back to city of New Jersey. In other words, we, Jersey taxpayer, subsidize that building $26 million over the next 20 years. I mean, we are not. We are nice people, but we are not that dumb. And we're dumb, but we're not that dumb. I mean, we are very nice, but we're not that nice. To give away $26 million, provide the municipal service.
Okay, we need to open up the floor for other
Yes.
voices.
I mean, other councils have a different idea, maybe we can have, but this is worst financial agreement I can see. Also, I'm going to see that who is our attorney to draft this one? Couple of places is wrong. They should be correct.
Do other members of the city council
Well,
have comments or questions?
The financial agreement is a draft anyway, so if there's any small errors in it, we could fix them.
This is a purely intellectual question, a legal question. You present this, administration makes a recommendation, comes to city council. Let's say council wanted to amend it. Let's hypothetically service charge from 12% to 16%.
Right.
Are we allowed to do that here, or do we have to do kind of an up and down vote on what's been presented to us?
So,
That's
my,
right, department.
but I'm going to give my opinion. My opinion is that,
Could you speak up a little bit? Sure, I was just asking, this is more of an intellectual, like a hypothetical of, just do we have the power to amend this if we wanted to,
Correct.
versus just doing up or down, yes or no?
Right.
so my own opinion, based upon my experience with tax abatements with this council, is that if we proposed 12% and you wanted to make it, just say, for example, 13%, because that's a change that benefits the city, it could be done between the first and second reading. If we proposed a 20-year tax abatement and you wanted to make it 15, again, that's something that benefits the city, so therefore you could make that change between the first and second reading. That's at least my understanding.
So
Legally, what's our
Get legal opinion.
And that's traditionally how it's been done, where anything into the benefit of the city is considered non-substantial, anything to the benefit of the developer is considered substantial. Depending on what the council is looking for, we can talk about that. The other piece of it is the way the state statute is written, the council has the authority to reject an abatement, but also give recommendations to the applicant to say, we're rejecting it, but if you do X, Y, and Z, we'd be inclined to support it. So that's actually written into the state statute.
Okay.
So it's kind of a yin and a yang, either or, but it probably depends upon what the council's intent is. So based on whatever you give me feedback on, we probably discuss the best mechanism to make that happen. Whatever it might be.
Sure.
So if you say 16%, I could say 13%.
I'm not going to go to financial agreement because the number doesn't make any sense. So I didn't go there far. Because if we see the financial, we have to change the whole things. But I'm going to add to one more thing the council members, our colleagues should understand. If they build a 336 units market rate, and they're going to contribute $528,000 for affordable trust fund, means that they contribute to affordable housing 0.06%. You know, it's far 0.6%, not even 1%. And if they contribute like $1,500 per unit, come on.
You can never.
Total is $520-some thousand, cannot even build one unit somewhere today. Even the federal government allow that, construction cost of affordable housing in Jersey City around $250,000. So even though you guys provide $520,000, just enough maybe build 2 affordable housing units in Jersey City.
But there's an ordinance that calls for that amount to be contributed, so...
Yeah, we know that, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's just my point. It's the
The other
city's
hand-
ordinance,
The other,
so...
the other project come up, they can come up, we can put in 20% to 10%
can we
as
amend it?
affordable housing units. Instead to do that, instead of choice to give us like a 20% affordable, 10% affordable house, you guys chose that to contribute to $1,500 per unit for affordable house. I mean, you guys always get away all those things, whatever should we do, but meantime was a big gift from the city of Jersey. I really, I can tell you that, I don't want your time, I don't want to waste my time. I can say that doesn't matter which way you come up, probably you can count on me as one big no for this tax abatement bill. I'm not the only one, probably everybody has the same page, feel like, you know, because we try to limit the tax abatement on the waterfront, you know, and we have no reason to somebody able to pay $8,000 per monthly rent while we have to be contributed $26 million over the 20 years. I think it's not right.
I just want to follow up on what Councilman Solomon said. So if hypothetically, if there was a proposed amendment, it would be reject and give recommendations for change, or is it could be amended? I think I heard Councilman Waterman say that. It's we actually propose an amendment,
Right, what
an
can it be?
amendment.
Well, that's going to depend upon what the proposed change would be. You know, I would also note that in the event the council wanted to amend the ordinance to include something that the applicant is not willing to agree to, an agreement needs two sides.
Right.
So that's part of it. And traditionally what has been done is anything in between first and second reading that is to the benefit of the city has been deemed not to be substantial.
Right.
Anything that's to the benefit of the applicant is deemed to be substantial. So you have that piece of it as well. So a lot of it's going to depend on what the council wants to do, whether the applicant would be willing to agree to it. But I will also note the state abatement statute specifically notes that the council can vote up and down and also provide a recommendation what would be required by the council to achieve a positive result for the applicant. So the state statute bakes that in.
But to the specific question of, like, we go on Wednesday and I say, hypothetically, this is completely hypothetical, I say I'm changing, I want to amend the tax abatement application so it's a 16% annual service charge. Can we do that?
It's going, well, if it's before first reading, that's a different question. In between first reading and second reading, it's another question. But also going back to, it's going to depend on whether the applicant is willing to agree to the amendment that you're willing to make. And an ordinance for a tax abatement passed by the council with changes that the applicant is not willing to agree to, it's obviously,
I mean,
it has no consequence.
we could
Again,
vote,
agree with that.
hypothetically, could we just vote it through, the amendment, and then they could decide if they want to sign it after the fact?
Right,
It's just
It would
an
depend.
agreement, they sign it if they want to.
If it's done prior to the first reading, as an amendment, before you vote on it on Wednesday, that's when the time for that.
What if we do it between first and second, or we do it at second reading?
Then it would depend upon whether it's a benefit that would go to the city or a benefit that would go to the applicant. If it's a change that's to the benefit of the city, tradition here has deemed that to be not a substantial change because it benefits the city. However, if the change in between first and second reading then benefits the applicant, it would demonstrate a substantial change. And we'd have to go back to first reading.
Right, but you could still make the amendment. We would just go back to first reading.
Correct. You can always make the amendment.
Yeah.
The problem is, in the event it's substantial, then you have to go back to renoticing the ordinance.
So I have two questions, and number one is if you don't do this, don't get this abatement, you're going to move forward with the project.
Anyway.
You'll go forward with it anyway. Will you do it with union labor, PICA, or PLA, or some sort of union labor?
So we've included, and the law department's included in this application, a project employment agreement, because my understanding is that's still required. So the answer to that one is yes, the project employment agreement. The project labor agreement, though, is no longer applicable to a project that is...
Right, because we don't have a RAB or something like that.
Right, it's illegal now. So So that was not included as one of the components of this application. But I could certainly go back and talk to my client.
So, Council President, I'm going to give you one thing, NW financing. You know, I'm not happy with their service, but when I see this report, they did a pretty good job. Don't do that again, okay? Do always have like same good report like that. So what it's called, even he say that the report, I want to share with everybody, when the city of New Jersey go get into PA agreement, usually their construction costs 10% higher. In other words, because this city of New Jersey put your PA agreement with the financial to be attached together, the most construction costs are 10% higher. Anybody purchased that the units in here, they pay 10% higher than other place. They make a big mistake. We did it. And in the meantime, we put in the PA agreement, and the job creation for the Jersey City less than 3% was. In the meantime, homeowner pay extra 10% higher price than they're supposed to be because construction is higher. So, NW Finance, you do a great job. You say something very honestly. That you used to not do that, but you
Let's, come on,
Let's
honestly.
go with it.
I'm telling you.
So can I just say one thing about NW Financial's report? So I know the firm. I've worked with them, and on the other side of them, I think I have a great deal of respect for them. I got that report on Friday afternoon. I downloaded it off the council website. Haven't had a chance to really look at it very closely yet, but I'm familiar with it. The one problem that I have with it is what I had mentioned to the council before, which is it's a very isolated view of one project. Newport is not just one site. It is a redevelopment area. So the report itself doesn't include a lot of the things that I was discussing before, which is that there's a lot of Newport that's privately maintained, which does make a difference in some of the costs that are in that report. The other thing is I will just point out that there's a report that I received from the assessor that says the taxes that would be generated from the project are $2.2 million, and I know that NW Financial's report says $2.7 million. So somebody's wrong, or it's in between, or maybe the number's in between. But I think if you're going to look at something, you might want to look at that, because the tax assessor also did a report that I think you have that says the taxes are $2.2 million and the service charge is $1.9 million, so they're very close to each other in this case.
Even though you say that the NW financing projected parking lot for the parking space, they expect $150 for the monthly fee, $150. I mean, if you try to find out parking space rent here now, not the $150, you gotta pay almost $400. You're predicting the room $300,000 per year income for the parking space, but actually you can double it. But you very use the conservative numbers to cover your side. So I got no argument with that. I have different opinion with him. So you use, when I say numbers, you use very, very low numbers to make them protect your side any issue. But whichever you go, answer is very simple. If we give tax based on this financial agreement, the cost of taxpayer provide the municipal service $26 million. Over the 20 years, the city of New Jersey only get $9,000 and $20,000. But meantime, we have to provide $26 million worth of municipal service. Whatever $26 million, where it come from? General, regular taxpayer, him and me, or you're not in the house, right? You and me, and we have to be paid. Maybe school get the $33 million from this pilot program, but one thing you never forget, person who pays school tax, they pay municipal tax. In other words, same person paid both tax. So in other words, you rob the pocket left and pay the, come on. So I'm not going to, if in most cases, I like to make a recommendation to usually adjust that annual service charge, increase maybe short-term of that trunk, blah, blah, blah. But when I look at this one, and the location-wise, you don't deserve any tax abatement. Sam feel like a councilman in Bujan. One of the place. And also, as I say,
I'd like to get a couple questions
Could we
in here.
please
Yeah. Can someone speak to me about Affordable Housing Trust Fund contributions?
Right.
That would be proposed as part of this application? Either from the administration, John, NW Financial? What is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund contribution?
$528,000.
$528,000.
$528,000. This is here.
It's here.
Yeah, it's in there.
528,000.
The level of contribution is set by ordinance. It's $1,500 per unit. Yeah, so,
He's asking what the dollar amount.
okay, yeah, but, yeah.
We're gonna build.
I spent my time with my beautiful wife, so I didn't read the whole thing. So, I'm asking questions here, right? So, now inside of, and I don't know if you guys can answer this, but inside of the redevelopment plan, what redevelopment plan governs this area?
It's also in the,
I know it's in there.
yeah, the Newport,
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any other benefits that are provided through the Newport, what's it called, Newport IDB?
Newport redevelopment
Yeah.
plan, yes.
Okay. Are there any other benefits provided through the redevelopment plan itself?
Benefits, no, it's just it's a plain vanilla redevelopment plan, just prescribes the zoning requirements for the project, but it doesn't have any bonus provisions or other charges that are due.
Let me ask you about the water and sewage infrastructure in the area. Is it, how is it? Is it part of the MUA's efforts to do any sort of upgrades or anything like that in there, or?
Well, so as I said, there is no infrastructure in the area, sorry, John. That's the site, but, and this is the park, but all of this is yet unconstructed. So part of this project is to complete the roads, to put all the water and sewer infrastructure in, also to relocate, there's an intersection here for Target. It's to move the intersection back here so that there won't be three lights, there would still be two.
So who's paying for the roads and water infrastructure?
Newport.
Not the city.
Not the city, the project.
Because it's your private property.
This is all private property, Newport's paying for all the infrastructure improvements itself.
And we have legally an agreement that they maintain it to infinity and beyond, or?
Well, they're private roads.
Right, there's no agreement, they own it, they provide it.
It's not.
But they're public roads in the sense of like people can access it publicly.
100%, all these roads, they're 100% public.
But then is there any chance that the public would be cut off? Like if Newport said, we're just gonna put up some gates and say we don't?
There's not, because the redevelopment plan requires the roads to be constructed, and the waterfront development permit also requires, because you can't, without infrastructure, you can't really have a project.
And I'm just wondering why we didn't dedicate it back to the city at some point, because these roads, as we typically do with a lot of these developments. I'm just curious. I'm glad you're paying for it, frankly.
So I can answer that a little bit. There was a point in a prior administration, not Mayor Fulop, but where, again, the city said, we don't really need the expense, so we're not in any rush to accept the dedication of the roads, because once they're dedicated, engineering department has to oversee them, they have to be replaced, the roads have to be repaired by the city of Jersey City, and the snow has to be plowed. So the way that it has ended up to date is Washington Boulevard is fully public, and the city takes care of that. Where's Pavonia? Sorry.
Now it's Town Square.
Town Square Place, sorry, Town Square Place is public, and the city takes care of that, but all these other roads.
Can I share something?
Councilman Rivera.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of like bothering me. So, for the 6 years that I've been a councilman, I've gone to every snow event in this city with Public Works. And the only place that the city of Jersey City did not plow was in front of the mall entrance. The entire number streets inside Newport, the city of Jersey City plowed. I was in those plow trucks.
You mean these
Inside.
these streets?
Inside.
Okay.
So my concern, we gotta be, why are we saying that? I mean, I did that every year for 6 years. And Newport plowed not even a dusting
understanding. So maybe I owe the council an
They
apology.
said no, you said yes.
I mean, I was there.
It was the call.
It's not that I'm saying yes.
He's on the truck.
If you were there, I'm not doubting it.
That was on the chart.
But I know the roads are private. I know the roads are private, because I would have been the one that dedicated it.
And then, even though the city provide the municipal service, clean the some of the snow, and they put their own meters, and the whatever general revenue put in their pocket. What a wonderful city we are now.
That's true.
I have one other question, one last one, which is, in terms of the length of the term of the abatement, the number of years, can we do hypothetically a 7-year abatement? And I throw out the number of 7 years, right, because of school funding, using the school funding argument, our school funding is cut for the next 7 years, cumulatively over the next 7 years. And so I said earlier that kind of generally as a matter of right, we've said to people that you get kind of a 5-year abatement, no matter kind of if you're a smaller project or a big project, whatever the case be, most people kind of acknowledge that a 5-year abatement is not inappropriate. It's appropriate in that sense. So is a 7-year abatement feasible under those conditions? I don't know what the applicant would think about that, but I'm just throwing that out there as an idea.
So, Council President,
So I'm asking the law department to.
Council President, before you say that, once we give the tax over the 7 years, 1 year, 2 years, doesn't matter how many years, when you get 7 years, it's not rateable. That this year, the school tax increase of 10%, we cannot increase the 10% because why? The pilot program is a scheduled payment. So it doesn't matter how much they increase, they stuck with the same numbers. So while we consider that part of it, I mean, really, so, Council President, with all due respect, I think we enough discussion on that matter. I think we go to the next agenda.
I will ask the question, I'm telling you the answer. And you're always asking your questions and mouthing off.
Oh, yes, you can answer that, okay.
Answer the questions. I'm sorry, Nick.
It's okay. It's okay. I can be this guy, that guy. It's okay, this guy, that guy, some other guy. Okay. That's just, I'm joking, it's really fun. I don't see,
Yeah,
I don't think
there's-
there's a legal reason why it couldn't be 7-year abatement.
Right.
But that would also depend upon, obviously, the applicant. One, obviously, that's not the current application, it's significantly different.
Any tax abatement in excess of 5 years is subject to the long-term tax exemption statute, which is the statute that's governing this one right now. So that the duration, if you, 5 year would be operating under a different statute, but that's,
Yeah, they're gonna get 5 year tax abatement, 20, 40, 60, 80,
well, he's,
by state statute.
his question is a 7-year acceptable? Yeah, it's legally, that's,
I
yeah.
think if you took the, you've even acknowledged at times that the 5-year abatement is almost as of right? So I think if you took the numbers from 5 year, if they put in a 5-year abatement application today, you would see considerably less money, and we would say it's probably as of right? I don't know what the number is, but you could probably run that number 20, 40, 60, 80, and if you did a 7-year abatement, hypothetically, and you ran those numbers, you would see considerably more money than you would see for a 5-year abatement. And now, because again, we say, unless we're going to deny 5-year abatements, which we could do a change of approach on that stuff as well, but if you compare the numbers on a 5-year versus 7-year, I'm sure you would see considerably more money on a 7-year for a short period of time. Although I don't know if the applicant would want to see that. They might prefer to go 5-year at that point and say, probably wouldn't make financial sense for them. But if they really wanted to benefit the schools and it was 95% of the dollars were going to the schools and that was truly their motivation, maybe it would make sense. I am just suggesting that I'm not suggesting that we approve this abatement on its face, that there's a conversation about kind of the structural budget deficit of the Jersey City Public Schools and looking creatively, not just at this, but at the future applications. And while 24% of the abatement going forward in the future is better than nothing going forward, we know that we have growing deficits over the next 7 years, and we don't have a way to meet that $175 million budget gap that will come in 7 years. And so this is potentially, not this particular abatement, but reversing the trend on abatements where the city of Jersey City got 95% of the dollars. We could actually correct that over a 7-year period potentially, and I think that's worth the discussion and debate to look at that. And let me just add this. I fundamentally, while I think I want to see money go to the schools, I fundamentally disagree with a lot of the critics who say that this administration, this council, whether in the past or otherwise, that somehow we were going mad and wild with like abatements and so forth around that. I would fundamentally disagree with that. I tell people now, and that if you go back to 2009, that Mayor Healy had furloughs and layoffs, and there was massive budget deficits, and we're literally only 10 years removed from that, a decade away from that. And we still get $70 million in state aid for the city. And so we have our own challenges financially, as much as we're going to see how much we can possibly appropriate, but the long-term prospects don't look good there. I ask folks to think about it very creatively, and it's a sobering thought. It's on my mind constantly as how do we get there, and how do we achieve and bridge this deficit, this budget gap that we have. And I'm not saying approve this, I'm just saying we should have the council, because we ultimately have the financial keys, the strings here. We should be able to sit down and start to figure this out and think about different ways in which we can bridge this gap, because we really are the ones who have the responsibility to make this happen. Whether whoever else wants to say otherwise or not, the onus falls on us.
So then, why don't we look at the other way around? Number is never lying. So council president, it's a great idea. Then over the 7 years, what kind of dollar you like to raise?
Yeah, I would love to see it like, we need to get to 175 million. I'm not saying for tax abatements, but I'm saying we need a long-term plan that says, if the schools are going to raise their taxes by 10% a year, if we're looking at how much our rateables are going to keep growing every year, and how much our conventional tax base and the money that will go from the schools will go up for that over that period of time, how much we're going to look to dedicate from the city as a separate appropriation, and look at the other cost-sharing opportunities and grants and everything else, but we need to come up with a long-term plan, and then pilots and abatements and them coming offline, we need to measure that out and figure out how much that is, so we know exactly how much that deficit is. But I don't think we should take anything off the table. I'm not saying pass this, I'm saying we should just have a thoughtful conversation about this as a city council, and all of us sitting at the table together, along with school folks and other members of the community, and the administration.
If we had,
Will they show up?
I know, will they show up? Fair point.
they're not even show up,
They
right?
don't show up. They have not approached us yet. I'm still waiting.
In other words, their budget is passed.
Right. they're not
School
showing up.
budget is passed, so is it, this council talk about the school budget is a nonsense, because they already passed their budget, they're working on it. So, I mean, if they're not passed the school budget yet, then we talk about how we're gonna fund it, we're gonna add it, but they're passed the budget, so why we talk about the school budget now?
I have an answer, but let's save it for the
Let's say that for the budget discussion. Okay, any other questions about this particular abatement or any other comments?
Yeah, the inclusionary zoning, the new ordinance or the proposed ordinance that came out, I think Newport was in an area about 150,000 per buyout, not the 15,000 per buyout. And if you look at, I guess, the 20% of the units in 300 and something, right? 336. 336.
That's only for upzone.
That's for upzone.
Yeah.
So
They've
there's no
got their height and density as of right.
Everything is already done, so.
Right.
No, I'm just thinking, you know, the 15,000, you know, I just believe the 15,000 is very low. And I'm not sure about how everyone else.
1,500.
Yeah.
It's always been low.
That's
You kept telling, saying everybody. You
But
can't build it up there.
Just to be clear, that is pursuant to the ordinance. So the council could always change that ordinance, but he's not, I'm not standing up, he's not doing anything that would be out of the ordinance.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not.
But 500,000, you couldn't build a dog park.
1,500 is set by municipal code or state statute?
We have an ordinance. It's $1,500 per unit and $1.50 per square foot of commercial
Our
or,
municipal code says, I always thought it was state statute that says that.
we could change the ordinance, but
They kept telling us it's a state statute. I'm telling you, because I've been asking that question ever since I took
Otherwise, I
office.
would have changed it.
Right, they kept.
John, just to be honest with you, council, there is something in the redevelopment statute that prescribes an amount, but I'm not sure if that's a minimum, and it could go higher.
yeah, I think it can go higher. Yeah,
It can go higher. See, he knows.
yeah, it can go higher.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, look, can we immediately work on
Yes,
that?
could we?
Change that?
statute, it's in the
Because
redevelopment.
ever since we took office, I've been asking that question. They go, no, it's a state statute. I even wrote to the state.
Jeez.
I'll confirm that. It was my understanding it's a
I
minimum.
even wrote to the state.
It was my understanding it was a minimum. Then our ordinance sets it at what it sets it at.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
I wrote to the state. I told them that was not enough. And I
Learning a
know
lot
in such a
today.
way that
Learning a
they
lot.
should each municipality should have it in such a way based on the retail value where they're located.
Well, at the very least, if the statute is in place and it prevents us from doing it, there could be a resolution asking the state legislature to change that statute and give the city
I wrote that.
flexibility to
I've
do
done that.
that.
She did
Yeah.
I did that. That's what
She
I'm
did that
saying.
whole
I
thing,
did
yeah.
that.
Okay,
They
any
can
other
find
comments or
out.
questions on this? Can we move on? Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for your
Mike.
time, everybody, appreciate it.
All right, let's get into the budget.
Budget. All right, you ready? Yeah.
Where we at?
I was enjoying a good nap. Where are we now?
He's gonna do the budget.
Okay, we have our new CFO with us. Council members, you should have 10:48, 10:49, and 10:50.
Are we going to talk about the budget first or the appointment
I
first?
just want to let you know you have that.
Yep.
She's in the top of the batting order with her resolution of appointment to get us there. She's 10.5.
Okay, we're talking about budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have are these your amendments here?
Yeah.
So, should we do just to go over the appointment first before we jump into this, or?
Yeah, we could do that.
I'd rather do the amendments first and then talk about appointments, if that's okay.
They're together. You can see this is introduced, this is amended.
Yeah.
And then you can see the difference.
Where do you want to start?
I'm not able to open here.
So which page are we on in terms of these appropriations?
So we're gonna.
What is the agenda number? Budget?
This presentation is a little bit of introduction to Lubna's background. She's, before speaking about this, she wanted to say who she was. 'Cause she's
Finance
CFO.
director?
Yeah, new CFO. But we could skip into the amendment if the council president wants to.
So you don't want me to do the introduction, right? So I can just start the...
Yeah, if we just speak to the amendments and finish that, if
All right,
the council's
sure.
okay with that, then.
Okay.
Which one you gonna go first?
She's gonna speak concerning the amendments, correct?
The amendments to the
If I'm
budget.
following everybody right. All right. Nobody said anything yet.
This is what you?
Yeah, but she did say something. You didn't miss nothing.
What is the agenda number? What is the agenda number?
Okay,
So as you guys already know, I did not prepare this budget. This
Okay.
budget is prepared by John Metro. I'm the one who will help you out with, show you the differences, what happened
Okay.
with our revenue and with our appropriations. All right. Let me show it to you. It's not coming up for some reason.
It's not concrete.
No, over there, it's not changing there.
Oh, it's in it?
Right?
Well, you want to just go to the paper copy?
Let me start it again.
Yeah. Now it's on. All right. So while we're getting into this, appreciate everyone's patience with this. And I hope you all saw the emails that we sent last week about this.
Yeah.
The interest in getting this done so we can get a regular tax bill out. We've been discussing with each of you and trying to understand everyone's needs after all the budget hearings, and we think we got everything in here, although Councilman Solomon did send some additional things this morning. We are happy to reconcile if you want to just go through and figure out, like, I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing this morning, but I think a lot of what we were putting in there was also what you put in there too. We tried to listen to what you were saying, but we're happy to just make this work and get everything in that you wanted. If anyone has any questions as we go through this, I know it's a lot of line items and it's like sort of confusing. There's a statutory requirement is how we format this thing. So, but that being said, everything that you've asked for, we hope is in here at this point.
So I didn't ask for anything, for the record, just, and I still have to get my stuff together on that stuff, but that being said, I also emailed everyone in the city council if you had any amendments. The only person I heard from was Councilman Solomon, specifically about specific amendments, and so I'm scheduled to meet with Division of Local Government Services tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Councilman Solomon, you're coming to that as well, yeah? So we can discuss some of the proposed amendments that he was looking to bring there.
Before we go forward, let me ask this one. Because what I expect, because we set up several different committee and chairs, so I didn't get any chairman to any committee, so I expect from each committee chairs, from some kind of the paper, I only received the one.
Marlene sent out one consolidated kind of summary of...
Is that what it is?
Yeah, she did. She did send out a summary.
Summary of like the
Every
things. So it
meeting.
wasn't like cut this and cut that, but there was a summary of different points made, things like that.
Yep.
And in fact, I think Brian responded to all of that, him and John, and that was sent out.
This is the first year we actually set up a committee, so let it go. Okay, move on. Okay.
Yeah. And Councilman, when we met last week, everything that you asked for, we put in here.
Okay.
All right, this is for the year 2018, and this is just to refresh your memory. You can see over here, the total tax rate was 1.488, and we came up with, for the municipal purpose, it was 0.689. This is the one we were using for the whole town, for our different departments. You can see for administration, clerk, park and recreation, public safety. For all our departments, we were just using 0.689.
Okay.
That's a post-revaluation.
Yeah, this is for 2018, so just to refresh ourselves. And then here you can see for the proposed tax rate for the year 2019. This is the introduced budget. And I came up with 1.5063. And after amendment, we are going to have 1.5067. There is not a big difference. It's just a few points difference. It's not going to make a big effect on our budget.
So in other words, after amend the budget by city council, we increase 0.0064.
And some of it's formula driven, so you'll see in the local school tax line, it went from 0.0078 to 0.0082. That's like most of the change in there.
Yes.
So it's not like we're adding a ton in here that's going to raise the tax rate. It's such a small.
It's a minor change. Still.
Yeah, and we can go through some of those changes too.
But municipal tax rate
District
wise,
school tax is the amount in the school budget, correct?
Right. This is for the municipal purpose, 0.70641. You remember, in 2018 it was 0.689, the one I showed you. Still, there is a little difference in that. This is for the open space, it's just 2 cents. And then we have municipal library and local school taxes, district and county and municipal open space taxes. Just to show you what happened when we introduced it and what happened after amendment.
The county approved their budget actually.
the county approved it.
They did, okay.
Everybody put their...
Yeah, okay.
3.5% increase, something like that.
Yeah.
And this is the breakdown of, for our tax rate, for our new tax rate, 1.60506. And here you can see the percentage, in terms of percentage. 47% for the municipal purpose, and 23% is for district school taxes. County taxes, we are using 26%, 1% for county open space. And this is in terms of percentage, you can see the breakdown of our dollar. And then, this is the revenue. This is for the year 2018. This is the introduced budget for the year 2019, and this is the amended budget for the year 2019. And here you can see the difference between these total revenue. It's 3,523,238. This is the difference we're going to have for amendment purposes. And in the next slide, you will be able to see the breakdown of 3,523 for the revenue. Again, introduce and amendment. So far, we're going to have the difference of 3 million, and you can see each department, the reason. For the state aid, it went down, and whereas local school taxes, it went up. Again, for public and private revenue, these are the grants, offset with appropriation, they increase, and whereas special items also increase. This is the difference we have.
So, yeah, so the total revenue in the budget went up 3.5 million, but most of that is from grants that we've accepted over the last few months since we introduced. That's the bulk of it.
And number 4 is, I'm sorry.
Do you want to go back?
That's
Sure.
an offset of, so that's something we need to talk about in the budget here, is like a lot of things were pushed into the budget, and we haven't reconciled with Councilman Solomon's piece yet, but there was it didn't balance out, so we had to add revenues from other places.
Number 4 is pilots and
4 is all other revenues. It's
pilots, settlement agreements, land sales.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the other stuff, right?
This is the breakdown of our revenue in terms of percentages, you can see, because for some of them might like to see in the pie chart, and for the memory purpose, they cannot remember for a while. So that's why I use that. And here again, in terms of percentages, I put it in the table so you can easily see for the revenue. And this is our appropriations. Again, we are going to have the same difference, the difference we have it for the revenue, the same money. And now you can see this is for the year 2018, 19, introduced and amended. And then I will tell you the reason why. This is the overall. You can see 3,523,238. The Office of the Mayor, their budget introduced was this, and amended is 667. It went down 105. Whereas the clerk, city clerk, went up 185.
City clerk and council.
Right. The council.
The
That's
department.
probably more attributable to the council.
Yeah.
The Department of Human Resource
Take ownership.
went up again 100. The Department of Administration went up 123. Department of Law went down 100,000. Department of Public Work 200. This is overall, you can see a better picture for the departments. That will help you to see what happened in each department. Why there is a difference of 3 million? Because some of the departments appropriation went up, whereas some of the departments appropriations went down.
So the big difference or change is in line 14.
Yeah, the grants.
That's grants.
That's grants. Yeah. And we could talk through each of these lines. It was in Metro's email to the group for the most part, I think.
Yeah, he did.
But I don't know if you want to go line by line here and talk about what each of these changes was.
Are they broken down in here?
I don't know if they're
Line by
in here.
line?
I think they were in Metro's email from.
Yeah, it's the one legal size paper. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Send it over to everybody.
Yeah, he did.
Do they correspond with these lines exactly?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Very good.
I got all these numbers. I worked on the weekend and I just created the summary for you guys,
Right.
just for better understanding.
I would like to note a few things in particular. One is a $500,000 decrease in the salary adjustment line. It's as Councilman Yun has requested. We have this $1.2 million budget for salary adjustments. We didn't use it last year, so we're reducing some of that to put it into these other departments to deal with the salaries there. Also, a $200,000 decrease in the Department of Public Works. It's a reduction in overtime budget. This is something I think Councilman Solomon had in his request as well. What else is in here? Councilman Waterman, the $100,000 increase in HRs for the training. I'm just trying to remember all the things that everyone specifically requested here.
What's the $250,000 increase?
The recreation, yeah, so there was no SAT course budgeted in this. They asked for it, we did not put it in, so that's not in there, the 500,000. But this was based on requests made at the council meeting to fund some of the rec programs. I can't remember exactly what they were off the top of my head. I don't have the full detail here.
So that one, just I'm gonna bring up the issues that we get like a few phone calls from the parents.
Yeah.
The summer camp program,
Yeah.
like at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., but a lot of people thought it's at 4 p.m.
Okay.
So 1 hour's difference, it sounds like not that much, but problem is there. Problem is that it's a lot of people get out of the job when they pick up the kids. 3 o'clock is very, very difficult.
Yep.
So I spoke with the representative, if the city provide $100,000, they're able to hold the kids till 4 o'clock. I think that those kind of dollars, because we talk about almost 1,500 kids or 2,000, close to 2,000 kids, and that they impact like 2,000 parents in the city of Jersey, and $100,000 it help them to program extend another hours. I think it's worse to do it because children is the one of the number one concern. Not only education, recreation department. So recreation department, we just increase 2050, maybe another $100,000 or 350, so they can give us some more class, another extra hours for our 2,000, children's.
Yep.
So that's where they can hold the kids, another extra. 3 o'clock pick up, 4 o'clock pick up, big difference, right?
It is a big difference.
It's a big difference, especially.
It is,
Yeah,
especially for
absolutely.
parents.
So please.
That 250 is to make sure that we get all these programs funded. Yeah.
Yeah, fund the extra 1 more hour.
Yeah.
Okay, please help them. Okay?
Also, you'll see it's a variety of increases and decreases due to the RRC restructuring. So we moved people out of there.
Yeah.
That budget went down by 105,000, which is the mayor's office line you'll see there. Those 5 employees are transferred to other departments, so increase their budget. So we're not just leaving the money in there and moving people out, we're taking their budget at the RRC too.
Actually, this is one of the great ideas, utilizing manpower.
Yeah.
Instead of hire new hire cost for the fortune taxpayer.
Yep.
So I give you a lot of credit for that effort,
Some of the other things to highlight in here, there were some smaller requests made by the council, for example, merit increases for zoning. Let's see. Tuition reimbursement thing we talked about. I'm sorry, I'm just reading through this quickly, but for the most part, everything everyone asked for is in there, but we haven't yet reconciled with Councilman Solomon's stuff, so. I don't know if there are any questions about the rest of this here.
And this is the breakdown for the appropriations. In terms of percentages, you can see. For the municipal purposes, we are using 69%, and for statutory expenditures are 10%. This is the overall, you can see a better picture.
Oh, sorry, we also have 100K for census funding. I know there was a request, 100,000.
That's not what so.
Where is it going to?
Actually,
Department of Law.
was it in? Actually, I don't remember.
I think it's a
Let me get that number for you. Let me get that, where that was from. But 100,000, it should be plenty for this year because it's only 6 months of the year left. And next year is really the big year, the last 4 months probably, and after the census day, so.
And Brian?
Yeah.
So you know that even the director of the CD you mentioned today?
Yeah.
We get all the federal grant based on population and so we should be concentrate 2020 census. We should make same mistake like a 2010 that admission made. We should be making, So even though $100,000 or $20,000 is a great investment, I can say investment.
Yep.
So please don't hesitate to spend the money for that. And if we count people. And the council president, maybe JCTV1, each council program like maybe 5-10 minutes at the TV, encourage the people because we are all, most of the diverse council people, encourage the community, join it, we should put just some really effort.
Yeah, I agree.
That's fine, but the truth is JCTV isn't reaching
No.
anyone that needs to be.
No. You believe or not? lot of people watch.
In his ward, they do.
You're saying that
No, it's a really lot of people watch.
I'm just saying that the people we need to count who don't get counted, I'll say it on JCTV, it's fine. I don't have a problem saying that. That's, the reality is, that hard to count populations, where they are not watching JCTV.
They are not.
But even though we do that, it costs for nothing for us.
No, it costs nothing.
Yes, there's no
Whatever,
cost.
we need to use everything.
We
That's
need to have
the
a
bottom line.
serious-
We need to use
We
everything.
need to have a serious outreach
That's in
plan.
our
I don't want to get into the
to reach
details of that right
people.
now, but
Right.
like, there has to be a more serious outreach plan about the census
We need
to
to
reach those hard-to-reach
whatever we
communities.
do.
I'm talking about immigrant communities, low-income communities, minority communities. We need to, the only real way to do it is through the community, through community advocates who are trusted members of the community, and through boots on the ground, literally. I mean, there's no secret to it. That's how it gets done.
But I can say that, Brian,
Yeah.
we allocate $100,000, but if you need more, please don't hesitate to contact.
Sure.
Transfer dollar, you know, we get, how many we get the grant per year from the state, the federal? Almost we get state and federal is $60 million. If we do right, instead of $5 million for CD, we can increase it more, so please.
Yep.
I keep insist that, you know.
Also, Mira, the mounted unit is no longer in here because that's not going to happen until next year. Under 25,000.
Right.
So reduce the budget by that much. I don't know if there's specific questions about other stuff. James, I don't know if you want to.
But the 50,000 for the consultant for planning is.
Yes, yeah, that's an HEDC, yeah. Yeah, 50,000, yep, 54 to enrichment. Yeah, the HEDC line here has a lot of changes in it, so yeah, in the 161,887 increase, 50,000 is for the consultant, yep.
Okay.
And did we allocate some dollars? I think that most council places, Sam, feel like we have. Planning department have like a professional consulting company they can able to hire instead we depend on NW financing specialty.
No, that's what the 50,000, I asked for that.
Oh, yeah, 50,000, you know?
I just consulted with the planning department and she felt that would be.
Yeah, yeah, at least for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
It should be fine.
Is that for the econ or something else?
Well, or the econ or something like it. So when I spoke with Tanya, she had originally said maybe 30 and I suggested 50 just to do a rounder number.
Yeah.
That's adequate, 50,000.
That's the number she gave me. So.
Yeah, that's what they said for the next half of the year, so.
For the half of the year.
half year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna count for next year, but.
Right, it's for the half of the year.
So because I agree with you 100% because when we do that, include zoning at the housing issue.
Right, I'm telling you,
we
we
have
need
to
a
have some
consultant.
kind of financial analysis regarding for affordable housing. We don't hurt the developer. We don't meantime we get the bargaining for our affordable housing. We have to be balanced for a win-win situation. So we should have some kind of.
So if they appropriate 50,000 this year and then
Yeah.
you can do it again next year for the full year.
Yeah. But any of those money is covered by application fee, right? Increase is the $5,000, $6,000.
Next year. All right.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay, so we can recover the $50,000.
And these are my CFO objectives.
Okay.
Should I share them?
Yeah, you want to do
No,
Sure. So why don't I mean, I appreciate what Brian and
Lugna
put out. I wanted to share some other things for consideration. I think some are kind of in the realm of the type of changes Brian discussed here, so I'll start with those. And then I think one is the school funding thing, which I think is just a bigger conversation. And I do want to say, like I had asked, I was trying to get a bunch of information before getting back, and I got that information mostly like Monday, Tuesday, and then I had some personal stuff that was unexpected, so I was basically out of communication for a couple days. So it took me until this weekend to be able to sit down and kind of process it. So let me kind of start with a couple of things that I'd love to see added to the budget before, like again, in the realm of stuff that we're talking about here.
James, can we have the same copy?
Yeah, let me give you copies. I apologize. I emailed them all, and this printout isn't great, but we'll go through it. And it's not as nice a presentation because I was just trying to put it all together late last night.
It's for me or?
It's for everyone. Here you go. Here you go.
Oh, yeah,
So
this is a
I'm going to apologize. I'm going to jump around because it won't be as clear just because it's going through things. But of the stuff that I'd love to see added,
Wait, I have a question on this, sorry.
Yeah.
This is in addition to what Metro
here.
Center,
This is what I said, yeah.
Yeah, but does this include the
It
stuff?
includes some stuff he said,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yep.
So it's, okay, got it.
Yes, yep, you got it.
So this is everything?
It's built off of, yeah.
Perfect.
So just a couple small things. I'd love to see us be able to add a couple more engineers to our engineering team. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think our engineering team has been great when I've worked with them, but I'll request, whether it's stop sign, it's moving parking, and it takes months to, potentially 6 months up to a year to get some of those studies done, and they're really important to my constituents.
I'll second that request, actually.
And then Brian, just a quick administrative thing. I thought from the IT conversation that we had hired an electrician, but it wasn't budgeted for, so I thought we had to add that to their salary and we applied. But if we don't, we don't.
Yeah, it wasn't budgeted because we were pulling from another person's open seat, but if you want to add more budget to the IT, we can handle it if we don't do it.
I mean, if we don't need to do it,
Yeah,
I
we
just
don't
thought
need to.
it had been there.
We'll be fine. What line was that on?
That was Department of Administration IT. Then I had also wanted to do for city planning. I thought they were going to need more, but that's if they only need 50,000. Just going to Department of Housing and Economic Development. That's fine.
Okay. 50K, good.
Yeah, and we had you guys had the commerce thing in there.
Where is it? Which page are you talking?
Sorry, it's going to be jumping around, so I can do this in a better way. But Department of Housing and Economic Development, it's the third page.
Okay.
The other thing that we had talked about, which I would love to see, is more staff for housing preservation and clerks for there. So we've talked about the lack of the fact we have a combination of rent control and foreclosure ordinances and registrations, and that those are very burdensome to process, and we're trying to do more proactive, looking through the registrations and finding potential complaints. And so I was hoping that we could budget for those folks. That was a big priority of mine, given, I think, just the...
Is that the 40K here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, the Department of Housing Preservation. And then census was in there in a different place.
You said 40K salary increase or 40K for the new people, new hires?
40
For more staff.
for more staff. And
So
then
$40,000, how are you gonna find the people?
it's the prorated amount for the,
prorated is only 3
and then you're
months.
decreasing
That's 6
seasonals.
months.
You're decreasing seasonals.
Oh, okay.
But I don't. The thing is, these are detailed. I'm just trying to give you the high level version.
What are you talking about?
The increasing staff for housing preservation.
Housing preservation. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a prorate, right?
Right. Yeah.
Prorated, yeah.
So then, the last thing, with two other things I think to mention there. Then the second one would be additional parking authority officers we had talked about, just as they eventually end up sort of paying for themselves. And I think there's a lot of enforcement, certainly it's an issue my constituents bring up a lot. And then there was one more of a procedural thing, Brian, we talked about shifting the celebration of other events and basically phasing that out and shifting it into cultural affairs, just so it's clear that that's a cultural affairs budget.
Yep.
And so we're just clear what they're doing. I just made a guesstimate as to what was going on there.
Which one was that, James?
That's celebration of public events. That's all the way in the unclassified section.
Okay.
But then what I would say, so those are I would say like the smaller level stuff that we've all talked about before. But then I think there's a big thing which is worth talking about, which is we can have different. I know we have different perspectives on the council. From my perspective, I think the council president shares this. Obviously, speak for himself. I know everyone here wants to help the schools, but for me, I just personally feel that I have a commitment to offer a budget, at least for vote consideration, that does provide a significant amount of school funding. And for me, the reason comes back to sort of three key things. I think the first is I believe that the cuts that are going to happen this year, they're less than we thought, but they're still going to have a negative impact. So I think there's a responsibility to address it. Then second is I think it's a long-term question. So even if the funding happens today, even if there's some funding today, I think we're going to be in this position next year. People talking about layoffs. And then the third piece is the question of the abatement money. And we do have $120 million to come in for abatements that we don't share with the schools. And I would like us to move towards that, sharing of revenue. So what I did after that, as I said, how is it that you could possibly find room for this in the budget? And so then I did go through this and questions for us to consider and propose a series of, I think, finding of kind of, I would call them inefficiencies, and then potential cuts in the budget. And I can go through them in more depth, and I can give you a very detailed breakdown, but let me just kind of go through what I think were the big ones, and then understand kind of where we're going from there. So the big ones are shifts, and I want to be clear that these are not in any way intended at all of cuts of personnel or layoffs, but in looking at public safety, because when we budget for public safety, we budget for the full salaries of everybody as if that they're not going to retire. And last year we did that, and police, I think we budgeted 92 million in salary, and we ended up only paying 86. And then in fire, we budgeted something like 62 million and only paid for 57. And last year with fire, they just paid the lower number, but with police, that money all got shifted into overtime. And so overtime ended up kind of doubling. So my goal was basically to try to prevent that from happening. And so that money that we get, because we save it from retirements, to shift it basically into two places, which shift more than half of it into the unaccumulated absences portion of the budget. So that's the portion that tries to pay for, the payouts that we have to do. So this thing that I put together ends up putting 4 million there. And then the other was to shift it into school funding. And so it ends up with, I think sort of from that category, 3 to 4 million shifted into school funding. And then in addition, they get a little bit more for schools. I looked at taking 2 million more from the surplus. We have that ability to do more from the surplus. So it would be increasing an extra 2 million from the surplus. And then it was looking at a couple places where I thought we could cut. And some of the stuff that the BBA put together was like OT cuts from Public Works, which were similar. But then there were some other ones. And the three kind of big categories one was the automotive from Public Works. So what I said is their budget, and you guys can talk more about it, but it's $1 million more than what they spent last year. And so what I said is cut that million from 5.9 million to 4.9 and put that into the school funding. And I understand, that, that may have negative impacts, but my sense of me is that being more important. And then the second was some of the consultant contracts throughout the different parts of the budget and trying to return them to the 2018 numbers. So for example, the tax assessor, it was a $60,000 cut because we're not in a reval year. So I thought we don't have to pay the same amount for the consultants on that front. And then there were a few others we can go through, kind of different aspects of it. But those were the main spots of looking into it. So that's there, and we can kind of discuss. I should add one thing that I forgot in terms of funding. One thing I hoped, along with housing preservation, was to put some money into the Office of the Municipal Prosecutor. They had requested some extra staff, and they addressed specifically issues related to rent control and things of that nature. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. But there's obviously more details and everything in there, but that's the bulk of the proposed changes.
I mean, I get confused with that.
Sure.
When you change, if it's from to, if we two is lower than from, then there's supposed to be process increase,
Sorry, say that again, Michael?
Okay, any place I had to point out?
So some of your numbers didn't come out.
Right, then I see that in the printout, but some of them have the, and it's all in the thing I emailed, and I can get a better copy for everybody.
Sure.
So what's the total difference you have so far?
I mean, so it's basically the big difference from what was presented. There's basically roughly a $5 million drop in appropriation, give or take, and an extra $2 million in the surplus. And then that combines goes into a school funding category, roughly $7 million.
Makes sense.
And then there's also $4 million in the shift of money into the accumulated absences portion of the budget.
So there's okay, got it. 5 million less spending, 2 million more revenue,
Yeah.
7 million extra dollars.
Going
3
to-
million goes to the schools, 4 to accumulate.
Yeah, more. So 7 million for the schools,
Okay.
and then a shift of other revenue for 4 million to accumulated absences.
How much is we saving with the schools by us consolidating services?
For,
The school, we consolidate certain services. See,
so
that's,
we-
see, my whole thing is with this school.
Yeah.
I have not sat down with the officials yet, who's ever in charge. I want to know what's going on. We're trying to come up with plans, and they have not sat at this table yet. So it's hard for me to say, okay, give them this, give them that. We may be saying, give them something, and it may not be helping at all.
Yeah.
They need to sit down and tell us what is their plan. How can we, come together and build this? Even the county needs to be here. The county got money too. I'm just at this point, everybody has to be at this table, because it's all of our problems.
Yes, I'm going to add to what Joyceman said, Councilwoman Joyceman said. Actually, we like to help them to go to bed if they need, because education is number one, because the location of
Right.
But key word is that we talk about 2019 budget, but meantime, school board already proved that their budget 2019-20 already. So I mean, if they need money, if they need some funding, have issue, then they should be approach us that way before come up dollar amount. But they didn't do that. So now it's like somebody not even ask money, because the only group of people come ask money is the parents and teachers. But we cannot base on what they asking. We cannot just give the money to the board of ed. It's going to be causing the future problem. It's going to be the same problem what we're going to say, what I said 2013, like a tax abatement. You cannot just hand the money till they formally request to us that I'm going to say any number, we are short $10 million. Then what we can do two different ways. The way James Solomon say, we save somewhere, and we create a surplus fund to give to them. That's the one way. Number two, we can tell them, listen, raise your school tax. We're going to do our best to lower our spending. Because which way we look at it, we're going to have the same taxpayer. So end of the day, their role, especially council role, is that we try to limit the negative impact to our taxpayer and lower the tax burden. So if they raise school tax, then what we drop, we try to, as much as we can, reduce the spending, so our end of the taxpayer now feel the tax increase. That's our role.
Yeah.
But they're not even asked that, and we just like.
And I agree with Councilwoman Joyce and Councilman Mike Newman. I mean, listen, they've come and talked to. There's an advocating group for the schools, and they did come and speak to me, as they did to probably a lot of council members. But what bothered me is that the person driving the force on this advocating group is from New York. He doesn't even live here, so he doesn't even know, the fabric of what's going on within the Jersey City public school system, with the exception of maybe one or two members that, that are very strong advocates. I think bringing them to the table, I think, and let's be aggressive on that, and telling them let's come to the table so that we can discuss some strategies. But now they have not come to the table with us, and that's like
So
it's a problem.
this is the what we should do. I agree 100% with James Solomon. Whatever we save dollars, we put those money two ways. One, we're gonna shift to surplus, and we all remember that we saved the $7 million surplus just in case for next year. Or the city council can do whatever we save $5 million, put in that reserve account, because we cannot give taxpayer dollars to somebody. Few people come up need the money. I mean, we cannot do that.
So my read on just a technical thing is my read on the state statute that authorizes us to give money is we do have to end up passing a resolution to authorize it.
Yeah.
You put it in the budget, but it doesn't actually transfer until the resolution is passed. I'm not a lawyer, so we have to confirm with the law department,
Yeah.
but that was my
That's
read
right,
of the
that's right.
statute. It
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, that's what the station, we can.
But I'm not gonna sit here and defend the school board, right? We got mixed messages, right? They passed the resolution unanimously saying we want more money. then they, didn't come to the budget hearing, and then I know a few of them, at least individually, are sort of saying, hey, we don't think we need anything, everything's taken care of. Right? So, I'm not gonna sit there. All I'm gonna say is, I've listened to the parents. To me, they made a compelling case that we need to put more funds in now and in the future. So that's
this is the problem.
So that's my view on it.
Yeah.
I do agree that the city
But
should
this is
help
the
the school
problem.
support.
Well, one at a time, Councilperson Waterman, then you.
I do agree that the city needs to help the school in some way. My challenge is though, I have not met with any of them, so we all can sit down and come up with a plan.
So-
I don't think I'm trying to
I have
not do
a,
what the city is supposed to do, but I think the county needs to be at this table too, and I'm gonna keep saying that. They just do. It's like it's all on us, but the county need to be at the table too.
I would prefer, and I'm
Brad,
not-
before you start it, let me finish this one after her. Don't send the wrong message to Board of Ed. You're gonna be screwed the taxpayer of Jersey City end of the day. I'm gonna tell I hope every council people remember what I say. Once you send the wrong message to Board of Education, end of the day, who's gonna hurt? Taxpayers. Once they know
At the end of the
that.
day, who's gonna get hurt are the children.
So yes, so what we have to do, if we really want to help them, I hope you say 100% to James Sullivan. What we can do, Board of Ed, number one problem, this is unacceptable. They have a drinking lead waters. Water is not safe with public school. We, as a council, or JCMUA, I like to have a JCMUA, if they're plenty of money, they should be using their surplus some dollars to improve the water quality in public school is the first things to do. Because whatever we give them money, you know what they use? They use that as a daily operating expense without improve the infrastructure for our kids. We don't want things happening, period. So please, we want to help same page like everybody, want to help the kids at public school, but we have to help the right way, not spoil them.
Spoil them? Is that what you said?
Yes, spoil them because of Board of Ed.
So I would like to provide perspective on our end here. So we work on the budget almost year round, and we're thinking about it and thinking about, even if we don't have a physical projection of years ahead, we're thinking about the things and the spending and that sort of stuff. And so, I think from our perspective, the best way to do this might be to sit with the school now for next year and the council and say,
Yes.
look, like we're willing to find 10 million or 5 million, whatever it's going to be. Let's figure out what you need it for. We can figure out. We can just be ready for when we hit January 1st or we start to do this. We'll make sure to set aside unspent dollars from stuff. That's something I think would be.
I'm gonna chime in now too. So I'm gonna, with all due respect, I'm not prepared to give up on the 2019-20 school year. We've had parents and others come to us, plead to us about funding our schools and funding our children. We hear stories all the time about that there were layoffs and then that people were not riffed and that was revoked, and there's no one really fired, but then we hear about 9 principals who are not returning back to their schools, right? And they say that there's no real meaningful layoffs. These are all just efficiency layoffs. 9 principals, right? So we don't know what the truth is. I will grant you that. There's a void of leadership at the Jersey City Public Schools. I'll grant you that. And despite all of that, I would still say that our children, our students in Jersey City, across the city, they all deserve for us to make every last effort for this 2019-20 school year to see what we can do to make sure they're whole. And so we did make an effort, this council did as a whole, to have them come here and be able to discuss that in good faith. And that was essentially refused. As you said, people have rebuffed and said, well, we don't need it. And then I've heard other people suggest that they do need it within the schools itself. So I think it's worth making one last ditch effort to try to bring them to the table, ask them to sit down and say, last chance, this is your opportunity. We can put together $7, $11 million, whatever the dollar amount might be. And it's my understanding that there was, when the budget was passed, that there were an area of cuts of some sort. this is again more rumor and innuendo that there was priority list A and priority list B of things that may have been cut. I would like to see that list and see what cuts there were in that regard. If principals, 9 principals from our schools were on that list, I'd like to see that restored personally. And if I could provide the funding to make sure that they come back for one more school year and then begin the process of like talking about the long term and figuring it out as well, how we find a sustainable solution to all this.
I have a question as it relates to their budget, since it's already passed and it passed back in, was it May, April? If we were to have this conversation with them and they were to give us the priorities and say, okay, we can use $6 or $7 million, how would that be appropriate to the budget now that it's passed, or would have to roll over into the 2020-21 budget?
Well, so it would be difficult to do. We'd have to go through budget amendment processes, and it'd have to be reviewed by the state and the county. They're by the county, we're by the state. Okay. We would both have to amend our budgets. It might be worth doing that separately, doing this budget and then thinking about the school stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of
action.
Right.
But yeah, right.
If we were to go through this exercise and do this with the money need, could we apply it this year, or would it have to wait till next year, I guess is my question.
Yeah,
we in the month of what, July?
Right.
By the time all is finished, we'll be what?
I don't know the answer, but I think all of it is worth trying to find out and figuring it all out.
I agree, that's why I think that we should all be asking the questions we need to, and even if we learn that it cannot apply, but they tell us what they need, we can roll over that amount, and then it's on hold until next year. It's not saying we're not gonna do it at all, it's just understanding what the full exercise is gonna look like, and quite honestly, and
we can't hold our budget up now.
I know, but I've also said this before
They don't have
personally, and this is not to say that I don't give any money to schools, but until we have an understanding of how and where they're gonna spend the money. My father was an elementary school teacher, and in his experience, money went to the district, it never went down to the classroom. So I don't want us to take this money away.
Thank you very much.
I don't
Do
need
something,
that.
I agree that they need it. Everybody can agree that they're underfunded and they need help. But as we're walking through this, I want to make sure that they're going to be partners with us and we really clearly understand the need. We all know that there's a need. I just want to know what the need is, where all the needs are.
See, Mira said very good.
Right.
That's why when we give the money, don't just give to the
money,
daily
right.
expensive,
It has to be marked to something.
they're going to raise this guy, that guy, everybody, use
Yeah.
taxpayer dollar. So that's why when we give the money, number one, the water public quality problem is what they call public school. Then maybe when you give the money, the way you say, pegging, this is dollar will be used for improve the water line for the public school.
Correct.
So people, the kids not going to drink lead water. So other than that,
And I agree, but also too, they fired 9 principals, but there were people that were very excited about the one that was go up McNair.
Correct.
And, and so this is kind of the disconnect, and this is part of the conversation we need to have with them to understand
Thank you very
how
much.
it's gonna go.
so don't make any commitment dollar-wise.
So what I would just add is 2 things. One is, my understanding is we can put it in the budget and not actually give it to them, so we could put it there and then have the conversation.
Yeah.
But if
then
we put it there, we cut I don't want to cut none of ours.
True.
I'm not cutting none of ours because I know all those departments still need help.
And then I think, but the second piece that I always come back to, when I think of, they're the same thought that I have, you guys have, but I come back to the abatements and I say, look, that's money that should just be in their budget, right? They get to decide what to do with it. If we don't think they're doing a good job with it, then, there's a whole political conversation that's separate. But for me, it's, there's no reason that, I understand that the state passed this law, but there's no reason why the city should take all that abatement money. And it's never been a reason for that. And it does mean that they get less and we get more. And so, to me, it's about solving that problem, but then it gets back to the fundamental question of does it end up helping kids? And I get your question of, well, are they going to spend it effectively, and is it really going to end up in kids' hands? But we know that kids are not getting what they need in terms of resources.
So that's why if you're going to give abatement money, can't you earmark it for a certain thing?
Yeah.
And that's what we have to come up with.
And that's the shared services, and we can do more of that potentially, but it's also about their, just, again, if all the abatements paid just regular taxes, that would just be $34 million in their budget, and they decide where it goes.
So, Brian, as a business administrator, you got to do 4 things. Number 1, current time, 2019, what we do, like a municipal fair service with the, what do they call, the school and the Jersey City. It's like a garbage collectors. It's a daily private company, we do this, so they would save $700,000. Can't you give us all the list of municipal service and anything, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So we knows, we not give them like $2 million, but we do in-kind service $1 million, which is they say. So you should be lined up, not only that, till their board members come up to city council, they come up with a list of their cut, and they're gonna make a presentation, because we're not gonna give you $2, $3 million, $4, $5 million without understand. That is a crime.
I will reach out to Superintendent Walker and to the members of the school board to see about getting them over to the table and having them come before the city council.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have a conversation.
What's that?
Where's the audit that we asked for? The audit.
The order?
Audit.
Audit.
Yeah, where is it?
I don't know.
It's supposed to have been completed and finished.
I have no idea.
It's supposed to be end of July.
Are you asking me for serious?
No, I asked them when, because the French report is very important to us, so we know what is their financial problem they have, where is their waste area. So if they, the French report tell them they can save dollars, certain area, then maybe we don't have to give to $10 million, maybe we have to 7, maybe 5, you know what I'm saying? So we be patient, wait till they completed their French report, then we can talk about it. Meantime, whatever we able to save dollars, we pretend the surplus or reserve. So just in case the way Council James Sullivan say that when they next year, 2021, when we need, we stand up with all those information they provide what we're looking for, then we can talk about it, how we can help them. And another one, the way we are councilwoman say that, don't go their money to somebody to raise a paycheck. Meantime, we cut the peoples, we cut the service, you know what I'm saying? So we gotta make sure that,
Exactly what I said, but.
make sure that dollar go directly to the classroom or go to the capital improvement of public school. So kids doesn't have to drink contaminated lead waters in source, okay?
If we were to just send them 5 million or 7 million or whatever, without like a budgeted purpose, it would just go into a surplus space. They'd have to amend their budget, basically.
Thank you very much.
And then that becomes whatever they want, and it just becomes a pot of cash, right? And same with us. If we have some extra things that come in more than we thought, it just goes into surplus.
Think about it. This council started from the March, April, June, July, 4 months to looking for every spending, try to save taxpayer dollars. We put effort, you know what I'm saying? But what they do? Don't do that to us. And the one thing that
I'm just gonna point out that after you say that, the budget amendment that came back increased spending. Just to be clear, like it's hard to say, make that contention. The actual budget and the expenditures were increased from the time that it was proposed to the time that it's being amended. Proposed to be amended. So
because of that, we increased some $1 million because the inflation actually more than that. So even though we increase a couple of $1 million, if we see that actual wise, if we consider inflation, it's not that much, you know what I'm saying? And but which is goal? Business administration, your goal to make sure before they have the money, we're gonna have to see their book first.
Okay.
Councilman Solomon.
I guess 2 points. One, just as a broader scale point, I think something I'd be interested in us doing next year is maybe moving our budget process up to April, because that would then align with the school budget process. We're doing them in tandem together. It's also
very important. I told you that
stuff is less of our stuff is spent, so we have more.
In other words, they should be not passing.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
I just want to put that out there for next year. One just small thing, before I forgot. Did we ever figure out what was going on with the foreclosure registration fee? I know we're shifting a little bit, but because John was going to research whether that was my understanding is we had passed that, and we thought that was going to be a long time.
I can't remember.
Okay. And then I don't want to beat a dead horse. I mean, I can send a more detailed version so everyone has an easier way of understanding these proposals. I come back to where Council President said is, I really do think this will make an impact this year with schools. It's not perfect, but we live in a very imperfect world. We have to make choices of very, imperfect choices, and I think finding money for the schools now is kind of a down payment on the fact that this is now, for the next decade, I think going to be the biggest issue in Jersey City. So where do we get the money to fund our schools?
Brian, you have to be understand, if we really want to help the school, we have to be prepared for our budget for 2020, starting September. So we try to get all of the January 1st, so we get started our budget to study at the review. So before even they prove that, when we close down our prove that the 2020 budget, we know what kind of dollars are available.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if really want to help them, I'll have to start from the
shared
September
services.
this year, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so I have a question about what you provided, and I guess from the council. So how do you want to move forward reconciling all this? So with the process, there's a public hearing, and we can make some changes after that too. Just up to the council how you want to. What do you want to put
If
forward?
anyone else has amendments, what I would suggest is
Only one, I'm going to add.
If I can.
Okay.
So James Solomon is missing that. If you see that the city of Jersey money actually go out a lot of places called that when we do capital improvement dollars, when you say capital improvement, like $170 million, $100 million, $50 million, all those things actually, any projects Jersey City want to move on, we always hire a consulting company. Because the city of Jersey, we have lack of actually city engineering architecture. So we should be hire city engineering architect instead of continue to give us consulting outside firm, which is we spend hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s. We better hire our own civil engineers in the architecture department to review that.
Yeah, there's budgeting here for that.
Is there already?
There is.
Okay.
Prorated.
Are they yours, right?
In terms of moving forward,
Then I'm happy.
my suggestion is that any council members who continue to have amendments, including myself and anyone else, if you bring that to the business administrator and to the John Metro and then Lubna, that prepare an amended resolution that should be distributed to the council in advance. We'll schedule a special meeting during the daytime to introduce those amendments, and then look to adopt at either at the August meeting or a special meeting, a second special meeting that can adopt the budget as well. But that one would probably have to be an evening meeting or else the public will give us.
So the intention of putting this on now was to make sure we can get this done so we could get a regular tax bill out by the end of the month. Is that not the intention anymore?
I would prefer to see.
How does it just, can you remind us of the process of how it works?
So the tax bills are due September 1st.
Sure.
There's I think it's 20 day.
25 days.
25 days period from when the bills are sent out to when you have to pay them, or September 1st, whichever is later. So if we sent the bill out at the end of August, which is we introduce at the August meeting, it's going to be probably the end of August when we get the bills out. That means they're not due until end of September. That means we're not getting money coming in for the city until end of September or mid-September. And the summers, there's often a cash flow issue just because of some big payments that come through with the school payments and stuff like that. So we would like to, we had that issue last year, to be honest, with our prior tax collector. We would like to get ahead of this and get the bills out when we can.
The businesses.
Will we send
can do
out
that. No.
estimated bills?
Yeah,
We could,
can
but
do that, but
we
we should
prefer
send
not to.
estimated bill because we already know that tax rate already, you know what I'm saying, because county passed it, school passed it, so we knows that 1 point to so and so 6-8% of the tax rate, so we better be sent to estimate tax bill now, you know what I'm saying, so we don't have any financial cash from the city of Jersey. Meantime, and maybe middle of August we pass our budget, so nobody get the tax bill back to back, okay?
Peace of mind, right?
Are there, besides what we've talked about, are there other things that anyone, I'm just trying to understand, like, what would change if we waited a month for this?
This is what it is. I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to prove the council president to myself, everybody the same feeling. this budget actually, every council people I'm going to give you credit, put you their time and effort.
Yeah.
And especially I'm going to give to business administrator, you and the John Metro. This is the first time they listen to what the council suggestion. We never do that before, okay? So I'm going to give
That's not
credit for
accurate
that.
at all. That's not accurate at all.
No, they do that. Maybe, so now this one, very good.
He
very
gonna say
good.
what he gonna say anyway, so.
Maybe they listen to the council president, but they never listen to us, but anyhow. Because he's the president. So there was a very good effort they put in, I'm going to give you credit. So we don't want to give to any cash flow city of Jersey. Maybe law department prepare estimate tax bill, the resolution, we can move on, okay?
Let me go back to the council maybe tomorrow, just to confirm what our timing is.
So for my part, I would like to be able to do that outreach to the schools, see if we can get them to the table. That's part of my timing issue. And the second thing I would say is, I'd like to get that information about retirements and all the others, and making sure that in terms of dollars, that the budget accounts for that, the buyouts and all of that stuff. So I need to do a little bit of due diligence around that to make sure that all of that stuff is accounted for. And then, as I said, I still have some amendments that I wanted to put forward. None of that is major stuff the way that Councilman Solomon has proposed, but I'd like to put that forward. I've just been a little bit involved.
So just so we introduce, you introduce and then all the amendments read into the record, correct?
Yeah.
And then it has to be advertised for 7 days?
10 days.
10 days.
10 days.
And then,
Budget after,
and then,
we introduce the budget advertisement. We hold the public hearing 3 days after it appears in the paper.
Okay.
so we say that again, Robert?
3 days after it appears in the
So we
paper.
introduce the amendment,
A quick time is a week between the introduction of the amendment and public hearing and possible adoption. Or further amendment.
and you can adopt at the same time as the public hearing.
That is correct, as long as we have the green light from the state.
Well, we get the green light from the state. Got it. So if the state hasn't given you the green light, then, okay, got it.
On the amendment.
So,
yeah.
and you're saying it's only 72 hours, so you can introduce.
We can get a budget
Yeah.
amendment introduced and adopt the budget 7 days later.
Okay.
I have to have it in the newspaper 3 days before the public hearing.
Okay.
Let me ask one question about just what's in the budget. Amendments, and your amendments or proposed amendments. So does it include any funding for police recruitment and recruitment and training? For training for recruits, I should say? Not training for recruits, training for applicants, I should say.
I can't remember if that's in there or not, to be honest, I'm sorry.
I would like to see something.
Okay.
Police recruitment and training of applicants. So we do the courses, course preparation, stuff like that, right?
Prep courses.
Prep courses.
That went for on the training?
And we've got, they've already opened up applications, July 1st.
I gotta leave. Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Okay, any other questions or information, about comments about the budget? Okay, so we can talk about,
So what's the final decision we made? Like, we're going to send out?
Yeah, we're gonna talk, I'll follow up with everyone.
From the top then?
okay, folks, we have Lubna here who just already presented, and resolution 10.5 is a resolution appointing Lubna. Council members, any questions?
10.5.
Resolution 10.5 is the resolution appointing Lubna Munir as the Chief Financial Officer. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
So how does just, this is also for Luke, welcome, thank you for being here. Thank you. How does the CFO position work? Like, so is it council approved? Is it a every year appointment, like prosecutor, or is it more, once it's done, it's done?
It's a term and a
For 4
tenure
years.
position.
For 4 years?
Yeah, and there is mistake on the resolution. It's
Okay.
supposed to be for 4 years, and it says for 3 years.
Okay, so it's a 4-year term, and then after the 4 years, there's a potential for tenure?
Yes.
So then there would be reappointment, and if you're reappointed, then it's a 10-year reappointment?
Yes.
Got it.
Council members, any questions for Lubna?
Yes, some question. I don't know if we're going to ask or not, but I'm going to ask you. Because I see that your resume.
Actually, before you do that, if I can just, Lubna, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, okay, first of all, I would like to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to be here in the city of Jersey City. And it is not an easy journey for me to be here. It took me a while to get here. And Jersey City is my hometown. This is the first town I started to live in the United States when I get here. And I lived here for 9 years. And I got my bachelor degree in accounting and computer science from the New Jersey City University. And I earned my master's degree also from the same university. And I started my career in the government industry as a volunteer in Borough of Carteret. And at that time, they do not have any position available, and they created the position for me as a financial assistant. And I was assisting chief financial officer, I was assisting tax collector, purchasing agent, tax assessor. In other words, I was doing everything, and maybe that's why I decided to go for my certifications. And I have CMFO certification, I have CCFO certification, I have tax collector certification, QPA certification, and I will be getting soon my RMC too.
Good luck with that.
But it does not mean I wanted to be everything. I just wanted to make myself competent enough to make the better decisions.
Okay. Can we open it up to questions?
Sure, why not?
Councilman Young?
Yes, because you have some experience. When I say some experience, means that in the Jersey City, probably one of the largest city in Southern New Jersey. And when I see your all the working other municipal government, very tiny. And so last place you working Norwood, Bergen County.
Right.
Population 6,000. You may told you my district is the campaign, election district itself, probably almost 50, 60,000 people live there. Right. So 1/10 of my district, and you work there as a chief financial officer. And I read that to do some research about your experience.
Right.
Actually, you have no experience regarding for large city like Jersey City, because even borrow the Norwood, $10 million of budget in there. I analyzed their budget-wise. Actually, they have only a few $1 million is a bond. And we even issue bond, like several different bond, and they don't only have a pilot program. So all kind of things you never experience your past experience, So,
right.
Maybe you're very qualified at the maybe financial office, but size of like a small town.
Sure. So,
but I'm questioning your qualification for this size of large city. I'm not telling you, it's not personal. Okay?
Right.
As a small, because if I'm not the council, I'll never say like that. But I'm not feel really comfortable. And you make a presentation today, very well organized. I'm going to give you credit for that. But as a financial officer, this size of the city, and a lot of different financial issue have to you deal with that, not just a tax collector. If you see the resume, more likely you do as accountant role of that, So I don't know how you end up to come in Jersey City, but I'm telling you, and even though you have a lot of certified municipal by Caucus University, a lot of different licenses also, but still, really, actually, I even told that even business administrator, when we hire the financial office, we should be hire finance looking for nationwide, you know what I'm saying? Because we do, if we see a finance matter of Jersey City, a lot of things, it doesn't make any sense who has any financial background, but these things happen in Jersey City. So we want to actually change the whole finance practice in city of Jersey City. So I'm not really, maybe you're the best one, who knows what, but.
Hey, I'm happy I started my career in a small town because I was able to see the better picture there. So I believe the small town has the same rules, regulations, same laws, same statutes, and we just have to implement the same thing for large and middle-sized municipalities. If I know the concept, if I have the same understanding, I can apply the same rules, regulations for the big municipalities.
Also in the state of New Jersey,
And I believe...
Let her finish, let's let her finish, please.
And I believe working in a small municipality is more challenging than bigger. Think about like that. If you have to spend the whole house with just within $1,000 income, and it's a challenge for you to spend the whole month as compared to if you have $10,000 per month income. So I believe working in the small municipality, I did the great job there, and I'm happy for my selection because I saw the better picture and now I know.
See, maybe you know, but let me finish my things. As I say, you have a background to accountants, but in order to be a finance of Jersey City, this size city, we look for somebody who has a CPA license at least the minimum. But you don't have that?
I don't have it so far, but after getting all those certifications, I made myself busy. And I already purchased my Becker and Yeager, the software, and I'm working on that too. I will be getting that too.
The requirement for CFO in New Jersey is the CMFO, Certified Municipal Finance Officer, which is not a CPA. It's not something they have in other states. It's different in other states. So to do a nationwide search for this position is really hard. You have to find somebody in New Jersey. The laws in New Jersey are very different than other states, very different, and very different than the way things are done in the private sector. It's a really tough role, but as Luna said, the laws are the laws, dealing with them in one town.
It's the same thing.
Why I say they're looking for some, at least CPA license for that, because City of Jersey City has a lot of tax pilot program.
That's
and
right.
They provide financial statement. People really understand as some CPA experience, not even CPA license, experience a CPA to analyze that their financial statement to go after them and the access of property or so on. So, I mean, that's what was one of my wish lists.
That's right. I have master's degree in finance, and I did specialization in financial analysis. I'm a financial analyst, financial advisor, and financial planner too. So I know the financial analysis and concept, how to compare with the history, and how to forecast the future.
Councilman Bourget.
Can I say something? I think you're gonna do all right. You know why? Because when you were up at that board, you said you worked all day yesterday on this.
And that's the truth.
And that's
And that was what, a Sunday.
You know what?
Other council members? Thank you, Councilman Bourget. Anyone else? Got comments before Councilman Young goes again?
I gotta get my
Councilperson Ridley.
The RMC, the mini EPA,
Yes, I already took the classes. I just have to take the exam.
I'll
Yes.
tutor you if you want.
So then my next question is another question is the business admission.
Yeah.
Do we have any issue to promoting and the person from our finance department who understand and experience our finance situation?
Do we have an issue with doing that?
Yeah.
We have no issue doing that.
I'm sorry?
We have no issue promoting somebody?
Yeah, somebody who promote to the finance, director of finance department.
That'll be a different position, yeah.
I mean, current time, our people work the finance department are not qualified to be, anybody who's worked there not qualified to be a finance department director? I mean, that's why I'm scratching my head. The person who worked at the Department of Finance has a many years experience that deal with the current issues of every day.
But that's separate from CFO.
Yeah,
It's a separate,
but I mean,
we can talk about that when it comes up, if you want. We're not hiring anyone for that position right now.
Oh dear. So, but I can give you credit. The way you make a presentation, very well organized.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I'm going to give credit. But the other hand,
I understand your fear because you're right from your side and I'm right from my side. Because if I have to start my career, I cannot just swim in the ocean, you know. I have to start working from a small town and then I can work for bigger, you know. So I don't feel bad because you're right, I'm also right.
and also I see that your resume, you most worked at a very short time in each place. So
Yeah, for the last job I had, Borough of Norwood, I received the email from Jersey City Human Resource Department and they said DLGS recommend them to contact me. And that was an honor for me and that's why I left my job and I came here.
I mean, before you even town of Norwood, whatever, other place I see.
The other place at that time I did not have certification. And I wanted to work as a chief financial officer and I got my experience as a volunteer job and I had my mentors, they teach me enough to make myself ready for that position. So that's why I left that job. Now I'm getting there what I want.
Okay, Councilman Sullivan.
I was going to say she had prepared a few goals, we just looked at those right now.
Oh, yeah, no.
Do you familiar with your goals? Right?
Sure.
See what you were intending.
So you can see so far I just put 10 of them. I don't want to put a big list, but of course with the passage of time my goals will be changing too. So I will be doing future forecasting and future planning, especially related to our budget, cash management and investment purposes. I will see whether we are getting better interest from our bank statement or not. I will make sure that too. And I will send out monthly budget reports to each department so they can have updated budget status reports so they can keep an eye on what's going on in their department. So they're not gonna spend more money what they are supposed to. And I will provide revenue and appropriation report on the monthly basis to Brian. So in this way he can see whether we are collecting enough money where we're supposed to collect it. And he can also see whether we are spending, each department is spending like the way they're supposed to. And I will motivate and supervise my subordinate and I will bring up to the highest level of efficiency. In other words, I don't want more staff. The staff I have so far, I think we can just motivate them and we can improve their efficiency and we are okay to go. And I will minimize all negligence regarding financial errors. I will make sure the journal ledger, our trial balance, they are free of errors. I will do the analysis on the monthly basis. I will be watching all bank reconciliation to minimize the mistakes. Again, bank reconciliations will help us for our book purposes, not only for book purposes, also from auditor point of view too. I will communicate and cooperate with all my seniors and administrators. I will coordinate the annual audit and be responsible for annual financial reports. And as I told you before, I'm a financial analyst and I will perform financial analysis and I will make sure analyses are done on the monthly basis. And I will provide a proper guidelines and financial instruction with humble training. Anyone comes to my office for help. And anybody has any question from my staff, anybody from other departments, they can contact me, they can call me, they can ask me as many times as they want. I will have no objection with that.
So, I believe this kind of things we should be discussing in a closed door meeting, but unfortunately it's not. So I'm gonna, if you see that you working Norwood or Bergen County 2001 years, and then you work the County of Essex 1 year, and the Borough of Carteret is like 2 years. I mean, and the CPA company, one of the company, you work 1 year. So you work more likely assist somebody as a single, but our finance department, how many people work the finance department?
Are there any other points? I mean, you said this a couple times already.
And how many people work the finance department?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head.
I mean, not only you knowledge it, but also you need leadership to operating many people in your department, you know?
But don't forget, I'm not 100 years old, you know. I am getting there. I need some more experience. With the passage of time, of course, I will have everything.
Two quick questions.
Councilman Solomon.
One is, have you had a chance to read the audits that are produced from our city?
Right.
Have you had a chance to?
Yes. I already created the spreadsheet for our everything, for trust fund, for capital fund, for grants, and I'm also working on that. So in this way, I can see what's happening in our book.
Right.
So I'm creating my own sheet that will help me to understand.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just, since, the audit's kind of list the number of financial corrective actions.
That's right.
And it'd be great just to kind of get your sense of, how you're going to approach those, how you feel that we can make those corrections, and some may already be in action. And then I think you mentioned the forecasting, and something we talked to the business administrator about.
Because we have to do forecasting, otherwise we will have no reserve at the year end, and we will be in a very bad position. We have to think ahead of time, like 5 years from now, 7 years from now. We cannot just think about what is happening right now in the city.
Yeah, and so I think we would love as a council, we talked about, and I'm just going to show you, projections related to the tax base, so how do we envision it growing each year, related to the pilot abatements, how do those go each year, and then obviously the direct finances of the city and the surplus. So being able to try to produce that document.
As I told you before, I was the tax collector too. So I was the tax collector too and chief financial officer too, so I saw both sides. I know the importance of pilot program because we're going to keep 95% and 5% we're going to send out to counties. So I know the importance, so that will help me to do the analysis.
So let me ask this one. When you was worked at Norwood, your bond principal was $800,000, that's total bond, $800,000. And 2019, your bond is $500,000. They can reduce to $300,000. Can you explain how we can drop the $300,000?
That was the decision made by the governing body. It was not made from me, because whatever the request, they receive it from different departments, and according to that, they made the decision for the bond, right?
They made the what?
The bond?
Yeah.
For the serial bond, right? You're talking about our bond anticipation, right?
Yeah.
So there was serial bond. After 10 years, you have to renew it. You cannot have bond anticipation note. Is just they have the life up to 10 years. After 10 years, you have to get the serial bond. So that's why we got the serial bond, and now we just have bond anticipation note on the annual basis to renew it up to 10 years.
Some bond is 10 years, but some bond is 20.
No, it's serial bond is a permanent financing.
Permanent financing.
We call it, that's why we call it serial bond, because this is permanent financing. Whereas bond anticipation note is not permanent financing. We have to renew every year up to 10 years. And after 10 years, we have to go for permanent financing for serial bond.
So when you use small town issue bond, do they hire the bond counsel?
Yes. They have their own bond counselor. They are the one who are working on the ordinance. They are the one who prepare it. They are the one who gave us the rating, whether we will be getting AA, AAA, whatever.
Can I follow up on your question there, Councilman? So you're saying, I'm not familiar with the numbers there. You said 800,000 one year, and then it was 500,000 the next?
Yes, because they pay off, because they pay
Was it a payoff or you changed?
There was one paid off,
That was paid off.
and the other one we convert all bond anticipation note into the serial bond. This is what happened.
So you went from permanent financing to serial?
No, from bond anticipation note to permanent financing. Permanent financing is a serial,
Okay,
yes.
from bond anticipation notes, which is what, 1 year renewals?
Yes, up to 10 years, right.
Up to 10 years?
And after 10 years, we go for serial bond.
So in that instance, you went from bond anticipation notes, which were 1 year renewables for 10 years.
And we have one maturity
And
too.
you converted it to
Permanent financing.
permanent financing, which is how long?
It depends,
Yeah.
20 years, 25 years, right, it depends, 20 years, 25 years, the useful life we have to see.
So that recommendation came from who?
It
the
came
bond
from
council?
bond, yes, they are the one.
Bond council recommended at that
Yes.
time to go to permanent financing.
They are the one who are working on the papers, they are the one, just like here, we do have bond counselor, they are the one who prepare the reports, just like that. But here, Over there is just once in a year, over here is more than
What
once.
did you think of the recommendation?
Excuse me?
What did you think of that recommendation?
They are professional people. They are doing on the daily basis. And whatever they will recommend us, of course, I give importance to that.
I mean, what was the basis of their recommendation? Was that in Norwood, was it? Councilman Yun? I'm sorry. That was in Norwood?
Yeah.
So in Norwood, what was the basis of the bond council's recommendation to go from?
It's a stable town. We have nice, good tax rate. Our collection rate is good. And we never have any major big issues in the town. And based on that recommendation, they give us a good rate. But it depends. Small town has a different rating as compared to a big town. Big towns, you might be getting AAA, but small towns never getting AAA. They always get A+, AA, something.
I have a different question. Just between 2008, when you were in the private sector, and then your first job in the public sector in December 2013 with Middlesex County, or with Borough of Carteret, I should say, you had a fairly sizable gap, right?
Yes.
5 years.
Yes, there is a 5 years gap because I got married and I wanted to give some time to my family. I don't want to start 1 year and then took a time off. After 5 years, my kids was in school, and I said I should go back to work.
Got it. Okay. Let's see. Anything else, council members? I do have one question. It's more for Corporation Counsel and Administrator. So, and it's not personal.
It's okay. You can ask.
Person. It's my understanding that our municipal code has a Jersey City residency hiring requirement.
For department directors?
I don't know, so I'm asking the applicability of that, and then my question to you as a business administrator, inside of that, depending, I guess, on what the applicability of that is, and it'll make more sense. Like, well, what did your search entail in terms of like looking for local talent? If there's an application there, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, there was an application. It was out there for quite a long time. We accessed the state of New Jersey to help us. We posted on job boards, digital ones, and all over the place. We leveraged state contacts to try and find people in the state of New Jersey and Jersey City who would qualify for this position.
I will look into the issue of the residency requirement, and I will get an answer to you tomorrow.
Sure, that'd be great. So if we could share that with Marlene, and she could share it with the council.
All right, Brian Platt. So if she approved by city council, she studied permanent, or she's like a probation, certain period of time? How do you work?
It's a 4-year appointment, council.
4 years appointment. So in other words, even though we're not happy in the down the road, we stop with her. 4 years, correct?
You can tell me. You can tell me, and I will leave. You know.
No. No, I just asking because it's too serious. So I'm just asking that if the city council approved that, she able to stay 4 years, right?
As you pointed out, 4 years, yeah.
And 4 years later, we renew the contract. That's what it is. Probably you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. You know. I hope. You know.
And if I could just say, just for the record, like I said, whatever, if you can let us know on the residency requirement. It's also my understanding that even if there was a residency requirement, that the council could essentially, by resolution, through this process, waive that requirement. But
again, I will confirm.
Okay. And if you could let us know about that as well. I just want us to do it. If we're going to do it, if there is a requirement, I guess to my council members, that we know actively, and if we're going to be waiving it, then folks know that they're actually waiving that requirement, if that's the case. Okay. Any other questions, council members? And Lubna?
No,
thank you so much. Anything you want to say?
No. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. I guess now we are going from the top.
All right. Just papers.
Okay. Should we start at the top, Robert?
Yes, sir. 3.1 we didn't do. It's a lease with Garfield Avenue South Block Association. Property at 81 Garfield Avenue for community garden. did 2, which was
Okay, just on
withdrawn.
3.1, I sent a series of questions.
I believe they might have just sent the information.
Margaret just
to us.
sent in responses.
Yeah.
See if we can confirm that. Okay.
We did
3.1, I had asked a series of questions, copied you all.
Right. Yeah, because I also thought that they had changed the Adopt a Lot program so that only nonprofits could apply for the garden space. But I guess you have some clarification on some of the questions you asked.
This is a nonprofit, right?
3.3, we did 3.2, which was withdrawn. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 3 to require that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion review all requests for RFPs.
I thought there was a fact sheet and it was going to have me and Jermaine and Joyce on this. We have that?
We'll get it for you.
Can we get that? Okay. I did not sign it. I don't know. Unless somebody else signed it.
It was floating around, we'll find it.
Okay. Any questions about that, council people?
We did 4 and 5, 6.
3.3? No? Okay.
7, we did earlier. With Mr. Russo, right? 8 is amending Chapter 157 entertainment license to 1, clarify the definition of entertainment, 2, limit the number of entertainment licenses within the downtown Special Improvement District, and 3, supplement the application notice requirements.
Robert, can you do 3.92 and we'll just do them together?
3.9 is also an ordinance amending Chapter 242, Peace and Good Order, prohibiting specified actions constituting a breach of peace to prohibit the operation of any plainly audible, non-vehicular music or sound production devices in any public place.
Alrighty, so these both of them are, these are my ordinances.
Which one is it?
So 3.9 and 3.8, but let's start with 3.9. We'll start with that one first, because I think hopefully it's a little less controversial. I'll sort of explain where that came from. So 3.9 is adding to our city's nuisance code a provision that basically would allow for a city ordinance violation to occur if somebody is basically creating noise that is plainly audible and does not, and violates the standards of the noise ordinance. So let me explain where that came from and then what we're trying to do with it. So where it came from was, and I'm sure this is something that happens in everyone's ward and other parts of the city, is constituents will call and complain about noise. They'll say, for whatever set of reasons, it can be an establishment that's playing its music loud, it can be a neighbor, it can be whoever that's basically creating a series of noise issues. And one of the main challenges the city has, and something Councilman Bogiano talks all the time about, is we have our noise ordinance, but to actually issue a violation requires a trained, certified noise officer and certified equipment to go out and do a study. And we have only one person right now who's trained in the city, is my understanding, with one set of equipment. Doesn't work on weekends. Works only Monday through Friday. So you got Palm on Saturday, kind of out of luck. So what we were hoping to do was come up with a way to amend the noise ordinance so that a police officer, any sort of officer of the city can, so you get a noise complaint, ideally you just resolve it by saying, hey, please turn down the music, and they turn down the music, and that's the end of the story. But if that doesn't happen, it's a repeat offender, it's someone who is continually creating issues, you can go there and basically issue a summons for violating this noise ordinance under what's called this plainly audible standard, and that's the language. So where we got that is, where does that come from, plainly audible? So I'll pass you guys around a study, and it was completed by a Rutgers professor. There's a few here, I'll give you one. A Rutgers professor and a former lawyer for the city of New York who had worked on noise issues. And it kind of goes through all the kind of details of this idea. And this conclusion that's in the front, I'll just read the first and last sentences. So the first sentence says, noise ordinances which apply a standard of plainly audible have advantages which may outweigh the disadvantages under certain circumstances. And then at the end it says, If the plainly audible standard is incorporated into a content-neutral code provision and is impartially applied, it has significant utility and addresses noise sources not easily addressed otherwise. So we took it from this paper, and if you look later on, it actually, the exact language is roughly copied from a suggested ordinance that's later on in that paper. We discussed this with the municipal prosecutor, discussed it with Commerce, and so we've sort of talked about it with folks in the city and think that this is sort of just a good addition. It's basically just adding another tool to address quality of life issues. So if you're having persistent noise issues, obviously, you know, the noise study, that's great too, but this gives our municipal team a little bit more of a tool to address.
See, that's why the business administrator, we mentioned that when we talk about budget, instead we increase manpower of the Commerce Department for this kind of job, we ask them use their dollars to purchase 6 devices, give to each device, each district police department, so they can handle it. Instead of hire a person, you know what I'm saying? Use that dollar to purchase device, provide to each police department, so when the people come and complain, Saturday, Sunday, day and night, police can be use the device to check the noise level and give the ticket.
Okay, let's go back to Councilman Sullivan's ordinance.
It's connected, but I have other questions about the noise ordinance. I say noise, it's in the nuisance code, and I should just add that the noise ordinance 222, the state has to approve any changes to that, and the state says that ordinance can only basically operate under a certain set of standards, but the state also says that they allow people to add things to their nuisance code and they just don't make any comment on it. So that's why this is in the nuisance code and not technically in 222 in the noise ordinance.
Okay. Any questions? James, do you want to say anything else?
Not on this one, I'll go back to 3.8 now, unless anyone has questions.
Any questions on 3.9 specifically?
So is this applying to like festivals and stuff like that?
So, it's a good question. Let me get an answer for you. Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yep, it's fair. As applied to festivals.
So
Right, that's
we have parks throughout the entire city that kids get announced during baseball games, basketball games, football games, and there's lots of people in the stands. They like to hear their kid's name announced, or a touchdown, or a goal, or a home run. We need to know if that applies to that.
No. It's clearly not the intent, but let me find out. Let me talk through and, yeah, I mean, the intent is to basically, if there's a persistent concern of somebody's there's noise that's coming and there's no ability.
And I'm just being like, you know, that nitpicker.
Of course.
If I'm living across the street from the school, and the principal's out there with a loud horn, okay, recess is over, what do we do there?
Yep.
Is there a time frame?
Let me find out. There's no time frame that's written into the ordinance, but let me find out for you about how it would apply in the case of a festival or
Like you said, festivals and things like that, cookouts, block parties.
Yes.
You know, I think they usually over by like 8, 9 o'clock, right?
Some that live in different areas are over later.
Yeah. So that's a good question. I'll find out. Alrighty.
Okay.
So then let me discuss 3.8. This is I guess a bigger topic and a little more controversial. So let me kind of walk through, and then I'm sure we'll have a big discussion about it. So the purpose of the ordinance is to try to strike a balance between nightlife and neighborhood concerns related to the pedestrian mall and the surrounding areas of that. So where does that come from? As you guys know the story, you know, probably roughly 10 or so years ago, they created Restaurant Row, and the goal of Restaurant Row is to bring, you know, business activity, bring restaurants, bars, places in. And what it did was it basically eliminated the liquor license laws to the point of where they could be. You know, regular city says you have to be 750 feet away, one liquor establishment from another. And they said, we're going to eliminate that, and we're going to put a restaurant row here. Took a little bit of time for it to get going, but obviously in the last 5 years, it's really kind of exploded. And we've had, you know, dozens of establishments come in. The concern that comes back to me from my constituents pretty frequently, comes back during the campaign and conversations since then, is that there have been a ton of kind of quality of life problems that have filtered into their neighborhoods right nearby. Whether it can, the whole range of stuff, right? Whether it's loud noise, being woken up, people getting into fights, nothing that's life-changing, but stuff that affects quality of life, as the phrase sort of says. And what they say to me sort of subsequently, which I agree to and I think is really important, is they say to me, look, when we created Restaurant Row, we explicitly, in the zoning, didn't allow for the creation of nightclubs. If you read through the zoning, both for the redevelopment plan, neighborhood commercial, restaurant overlay, it says restaurants are permitted uses, bars are permitted uses, but nightclubs are written in our zoning code and are not included. And their concern is that as more and more places have come in, they basically sort of found a way to become de facto nightclubs. So they're a restaurant until 10 p.m. and then they sort of switch and turn into a nightclub. We've all, maybe not all of us, but some of us have been there, right? And that has created a different environment and a different, again, quality of life that comes to the neighborhood. So they've asked me and said repeatedly, what can you do about this? How can you address it, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been thinking and working. They have asked for what I would think of as very kind of like really restrictive rules that would kind of shut down things moving forward. So they've said limit liquor licenses, change the zoning, don't allow for bars to keep coming in, things like that. And I've tried to resist those calls because I think that overall the nightlife has brought some benefits, right? People like coming out, you have some really great places, but the people are not wrong in thinking that it's changed quality of life. So we looked at the police calls for service from 2013 to 2018 to kind of compare before all these places, sort of most of them came, to what it's been like now. And we can send you the sort of full list, but it showed that there was 78% increase in the area of people calling police. You have the full range of issues, again, assaults, drunkenness, noise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I kind of came up with as a proposal was to limit entertainment licenses. So entertainment licenses, it's a part of our city code, and it says if you want to have live music, DJs, etc. in your establishment, you have to get an entertainment license. And we have roughly 13 currently on the pedestrian plaza and then extending up. So we have 13 establishments that have entertainment licenses. And we said is what this proposes doing is saying you're not eligible to get an entertainment license if you're within 250 feet of an existing entertainment license. And the goal there, just like the way we've spread out liquor licenses, is to sort of spread out any potential nightclubs. So you're not creating this concentration of them all in one place. So 2, 3 a.m., you get thousands of people coming out all at the same time and doing what drunk people do, just create issues. That's the sort of main purpose of the law. I presented it to the CID and to the 2 neighborhood groups as well as just broadly on Facebook. The CID is opposed to it. The CID doesn't think it's the right thing. And they send letters kind of detailing their objections. And we can talk more about where they're coming from. The neighborhoods, to some degree, again, didn't think it was enough. They were kind of with Parsons Cove and Van Gorst, and they sort of said, hey, why aren't you limiting liquor licenses? Why aren't you, we want the bars to close at 1. They were pushing for more restrictive changes. So from my mind, we're trying to strike that balance. Okay, the nightlife has brought benefits, it's also brought negatives. How do we kind of balance it? And my fear is moving forward is not, here's where we are today with quality of life issues. But let's say the number of nightclub establishments doubles. Does that then mean the quality of life problems double? I think it probably does. So that's why we're trying to do this. I want to add just sort of 2 last things before opening up to kind of discussion. The first is, a couple of the sort of letters and emails that have gone out have sort of said, we don't think there are other cities that have done similar rules. We did look at other places, and we found actually more restrictive rules. So even in Hoboken, which is something that we're not trying to emulate, they actually limit their liquor licenses. So even by that downtown area, they actually put in the redevelopment plan, there can only be 8 liquor licenses currently established in this plan. So Hoboken, which again has real problems, limits liquor licenses.
They limit liquor licenses
by redevelopment plan. So they'll say, and they have a couple right by the path. So let's say in this redevelopment plan, you can only have 8 liquor licenses. And again, the goal is again to create some limits. Last but not least, my goals, if this moves forward, it would be first reading. We have a month because it's the summer for second reading. My goal would be to sit down with the folks who are upset and see if there's some ability for us to work it out in that reading, and potentially you can even delay advertising the second reading. But my concern is it's basically been 4 years that my constituents have been asking for change, and we really haven't seen much change. So I want us to use this as a way to really kind of jumpstart a conversation on where we're going with the downtown plaza. So that's just kind of a big overview, and I know there's kind of different thoughts, and you can open it up from there.
I just want to start.
Yeah.
I mean, we spoke,
right.
The effects, and I agree that enforcement should be better. And I agree.
Yeah, I can't hear you better.
I said we spoke, James and I spoke, and I agree that enforcement should be better. Quality of life issues are affected. I think that we should definitely work closer then with the police department in enforcing these types of issues. I mean, I go so many points here. I think that restricting, the licensing, it's a bad idea, and I shared that with you.
Right, of course.
It's not a secret. So I think that maybe putting a committee together, to study that should be engaging the businesses. The businesses said that they have not heard from you. I know that the SID said that I think you said that you spoke with them.
Yeah.
So, there's got to be a different way where we can, maybe engage that community, because if, like I told you, like we spoke, why would I invest there? If 2 blocks down the road I can, do whatever I want.
See, you can say that, but it's more likely when we talk about the 2014, that the pedestrian project, so you actually claimed that the previous council was all messy cleaning now. We bring up the issue that time, 2014. You will be faced. But now, let me ask you a simple question. Of the entertainment license, is it licensed by permission or just licensed by anybody apply for license?
So the way entertainment licenses work in our city.
I'm not familiar with that.
Sure.
We never have
so let's say you want to have live entertainment in your venue, whether that be music, a band, a DJ, whoever. This requires you to have a license.
Okay.
So you can't just say, hey, I'm going to have a DJ tonight. In theory, people do, but in theory, if you're an establishment, you have to apply for a license.
So license means that if we apply, they come up license.
So basically, it goes to our Commerce Department.
Yeah.
Our Commerce Department advertises it in the Jersey Journal. And if anyone objects and says, oh, I don't want these guys to have an entertainment license, then the Commerce Department will hold a hearing. And the license exists for 1 year. And the Commerce Director is allowed to set limits on the license. So the Commerce Director could say you're given a license. He could also say, you're given a license, but you can only do this on, on Friday you have to stop by midnight. So he's given that power in the ordinance to have a lot of discretion over how he grants the licenses. And it's a yearly process. So every year you've got to reapply for your license.
So when we make a judgment, yes or no for the license, based on his or based on city ordinance?
So the ordinance is written, and I can give you the full code for an entertainment license. There's a few standards that have to be met, but it gives the Commerce Director pretty wide discretion over what happens.
Well, he got some power.
This is not the full code on it?
It might be the full code. I don't know what they gave you just the changes or the full code. It looks like it's the full code. So this looks like this shows you. Yeah, it is the full code.
So now, entertainment license, if it's regulating some numbers in each district, then the license is transferable or how they work?
Licenses are not transferable.
Not transferable.
Nope. And I should be clear that the 250 rule only applies to the downtown historic district as proposed here. So it wouldn't affect any other district other than that.
So because of that, the entertainment license business is a very related with money, business itself. So even though you set the committee, if the committee go nowhere because they want to care about their own interest first, it's going to be a tough time. But hey, you're the council person, good luck. Which way you go, you're going to get beat up by either one. I can tell you now.
It's already happened, that's fine.
Yeah. either one. Maybe
So, I'm not a messenger, I was just given this, so, I mean, I have a messenger.
Sure.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just a messenger. So this came from,
Nightclubs do that. Is it? Do that go by the square feet or do it just go by the license?
Sorry?
Does it go by the square feet or does it go by the license?
By the license. So I actually asked, the first question I actually had with the law department when I was working with was whether we could restrict it by square footage, and they said we couldn't. So.
I haven't actually read that letter, so.
What is it?
It's an objection from one of the.
This one, right?
One of the property owners in the.
This is gonna be a tough time.
So, I'm happy, like I said, I'm happy in the next couple of weeks to sit down and see if there's something we can speak to, if there's a compromise there. I don't know if there is, I'm not opposed to it.
When I go to council meeting, like midnight, when I go passing by, I see that like 10 kids, not the kids, 10 people around the corner of the small park. Could drink and I say, come on, I feel sorry to neighbors actually.
So I guess my guess, just I guess 2 more points. You guys can read and go through, we can discuss more. But I think the first is, again, we were trying not to affect the current businesses. So this doesn't affect any of the current businesses. I know there was some stuff about rooftops. We're not addressing that. We're just working individually with the businesses on that. So there's nothing that affects the current businesses and operations.
That's why
because
allow them to finish.
because we're just trying, again, to find that balance. But again, my worry is right now there's no limit on the future number. So, in theory, there's nothing that stops 20 storefronts from opening. Now, obviously, I don't think economically that would happen in the next 5 years, but you could get 5 to 10 more. And so my question is, well, I think we all acknowledge there has to be some limit, right? There has to be some ability for us to address these issues.
If we're not regulating what we have now, your existing problem continues staying as now. So that's why I'm saying, whichever you go, you're not going to be, people say thank you for you, because if you keep that actually grandfather in their license holder, and because of people complain based on current situation, so if you not make a small the current situation, the people are going to continue complain to you, so whatever you do, you go nowhere. So somehow, when you build these kind of things, to reduce the total entertainment license over the 5 years or 6 years, if you not go, your problem is a problem not going to disappear. Continue staying there, and the continue neighbor complain, same kind of complaint to you. Good luck.
How many liquor licenses do we have there now, and how many are entertainment?
So I know entertainment. I don't know liquor off the top of my head. So entertainment, we have 13 licenses in the whole North Avenue, not just the pedestrian plaza. We have 13. I have the number here.
But what about like historic? You said this.
Yeah. So that's just, let me rephrase it. So there's 13 entertainment licenses in the historic downtown district right now. So 13 have been issued, and we did a rough map. I'm happy to share this, make a copy eventually. It's not, but we sort of said, again, this isn't. I can't prove this to be like, because not like we measured everything with a tape measure, but these were the areas where you could. In the green is where there would be another ability to get an entertainment license. So it doesn't stop, again, entertainment licenses, so still a couple more could still come in the historic downtown SID, in the restaurant overlay zone. Our kind of rough estimate was you could get 5 more.
So specifically on the pedestrian plaza, that's where you're concerned, that's where
Yeah, that's the main concern, but again, my worry would be, let's say we stop it on the plaza, but then someone's gonna open up across the street. So that's why we did the whole SID as part of the regulation.
So this ordinance come based on current situation. So when you replace this one and we present the new ordinance, then the new ordinance is not going to be solve the current problem what they have. Maybe prevent to get a little bigger problems, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I mean, look, that's why I say the word balance. I'm really trying to not shut things down, because I think there's some value. I mean, people like nightlife. I've enjoyed it. But at the same point, it has created quality of life issues.
And
it's trying to create that balance.
Because one of the 13 would be able to be grandfathered in.
Yeah, if you currently have one, it doesn't impact you.
And it's a renewal every year, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't impact the renewal. So
see, why don't you?
So current guys a new business, like there's a couple that are up and coming now, I think it's $9 million, $2 million. So, you know, those businesses are gonna be impacted, you know, once they open, which I guess is the.
Which ones? The ones
I
that are
guess
currently
$1 million.
invested?
No, 2 million, the one that meant the old, I guess.
Carmen, yeah?
I guess that's why she wrote this.
Sure, and then let me, let's have a conversation in the next month, is my goal, to sit down with them. I get that point, because if you're making the investment now based on what you think the rule is, I get it. You know, we've had the debate in other places, but certainly moving forward, right, you know, 5, 10, 50, you know, someone could tomorrow say, okay, I'm going to start that investment process then. So that's why we want some.
So now you face the two problem. One, when we talk Airbnb, and we say that based on Airbnb regulation, based on current situation, to limit it, so we're not grandfathering the cutting. But now this one, we create an ordinance based on current situation, but instead to try to reduce the current. I mean, then this is okay to grandfather. The other one is, see, you got to continue yourself. James, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not going to relitigate everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, look. Well, look, I think because this is the law. It's a question of, to me, the weighing the pros and cons, both for Airbnb and for this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But which way you go?
So, if I can,
that's fine.
I don't want to belabor it, it's been a long day, so 2 points. Number one, just grandfathering in the entertainment current exemption licenses and maybe future ones. With no other changes with regard to if enforcement doesn't improve or anything else, you still have the problem, right? So the challenge still exists unless something else alters that. So I think that larger issue isn't necessarily, there still needs to be something else done to address the actual problem itself. To that end, kind of piggybacking on Councilman Rivera's comments about a committee, I think it's worth exploring that with the idea of studying necessarily is the ordinance itself. I wasn't aware of the situation in Hoboken with the limitations and licenses there, but in terms of not necessarily studying, but just getting people together in a room to just figure out, and I know from talking to you that the frustration, and I can imagine for the residents as well, I say the residents, not the business owners, but the household residents, the tenants, yeah, and so that they would be frustrated as well to see no action or see life kind of just continue the same way. So if some sort of committee could be put together that would sit down, and I'd be happy to be part of that in some way to see if we can't bring people together and solve this, or at least abate it in some way meaningfully, as opposed to just kind of hoping that it. And I'll renew one thing that I'd thrown out there at one time was over Twitter. I threw out one of my few tweets was a night manager or something like that, right? Someone like on call full time around weekends at least, around nightlife issues and responding to those kind of calls. Not someone public safety oriented, but somebody who's kind of more resident driven and so forth around the whole thing, and being able to like address those kind of issues that come up and so forth.
How many pending licenses are there? Like, do a lot of the owners have like license pending?
No, I mean, it's the only one that, there are two applications in the last couple of months. So the Ashford and 626 applied, and then Gringo's applied.
So Ashford doesn't have a license?
They have it now, they got it. And then Gringo's today, they're supposed to, I guess, issue the ruling on their license, the Commerce Director is. But beyond that, there's no establishment I know that has a pending application.
And just one idea, and I don't know if you contemplated it, but I don't actually know what the fees are now, but like varying entertainment license fees based on capacity, right? So with like so if you got bigger capacity, you have the potential for more issues, like ante up and pay up to keep the place safe and quieter, and you bear a bigger burden of that than the small folks who are around there who may have an entertainment license but aren't.
James, why don't you do a different way to play? You know, it's actually regulating is not easy. maybe you say that, I think you were already on the boat. You can have an entertainment license, but if we have any 4 or 5, that their neighbor complain or file a complaint against the facility, maybe when you then renew the license, not renewable, something like that, what I'm saying? Because then maybe you can more control that the noise issue, nuisance issue, other than limitable license itself maybe.
So I think there's two issues with that. I understand where it's the idea. The first is the current rules, they don't list a specific number of complaints, but they basically say that.
It's like
they basically say when you apply the next time, the director, the commerce director will consider your previous actions and things like that. But I think part of the challenge too is also just the volume of people. Right? Just imagine, I don't know the exact number, but right now, let's just say hypothetically, with all the bars closed at 3 on a Saturday night, you got 1,500 people coming out to the plaza from all the different places. If you double the number of bars, now it's 3,000. And now they're in the middle of the plaza, they're not just in the bar. So I think that's the concern there.
So more people like on the street.
Yeah.
Close from.
Yeah, and then license 250 or entertainment license 250? Because you're saying double the number of bars.
No, what I'm saying is limit the entertainment licenses to, you can't get one if you're within 250 feet of another one.
I can still open a bar.
That's correct, yes. So look, the neighbors are opposed to that, right? The neighbors say we should limit the bars too. The reason that I didn't put that before you was I felt like people like that you have a vibrant place to go out. That by and large, the constituent problems that I hear from, if they're coming from one place, they're coming from a club and not a bar. Like if we have specific places that I'm getting calls from, there are places that turn into clubs that have entertainment licenses. And then, we also with the liquor licenses, we still want restaurants to open up, we still want them to, come in and open up their establishments. So we're trying to not shut everything down. We're really trying to kind of create that middle ground.
So the decibel levels, I guess that's in the ordinance.
No, it's in 222, yeah.
All right, so is that inside the establishment or is that standing outside?
It's outside.
Because I don't know how you control 1,500 or 3,000 people coming out of bar restaurants, whether it's a club, bar, restaurant,
I mean, to some degree you don't, but the question is, my thing is, will the problems double if you double the number of people?
I just don't think you'll double the number of people. I mean, I don't think that you'll have let's say, if you open 6 more bars right now, right? I don't think 6 more people, I think you're just gonna split the same amount of people further down.
I mean, I think we've gotten more people, certainly, from when Porta, Ashford, have opened Bistro, Tall Days now, was it Madawan or the name of their club. So, you get a lot of people right now. You get a lot. So, my goal, it's obviously up to you guys, Councilman Rivera has opposition. My goal would be to introduce it here, set up some conversations in the next couple weeks. If those conversations go well, then we can hopefully move forward. But if they don't, then be able to ask for a vote. And obviously, it would be up to us to decide if we agree or disagree with the.
So what are you going to do as an introduction, and you're going to table it? That's what you mean?
Introduce it at first reading, and we have the option. We have a month until the next reading, right?
Okay.
Over a month. Okay. We have the option to postpone a second reading and advertisement.
Okay. All right.
So, but again, the thing for me is people have been waiting, again, 4+ years for anything to happen.
And you would be opposed to putting the committee prior?
I guess my concern, I have 2 concerns. One is committees can take a really long time and cannot act. And then we've had I've heard a lot of kind of promises around how we're going to solve this problem and not a lot of action. So I'm trying to really make sure that we have kind of really giving an incentive for everybody to come together.
Yeah.
So what about if we could push it?
Right.
Be aggressive in pushing the committee. Because you're the guy now.
Right.
So we can really be aggressive in pushing the committee, as opposed like, like Councilman, you said, you're gonna send out a mixed message, both for you and against you, so, I'm not sure where you wanna go with it.
I know.
You could put a effective date, like in November 1st or something, and grind it out and make it happen before then, right?
Only North Avenue, I guess, like.
Yeah, I mean, we could, sorry?
What's the, Gringos is kind of like more closer to a residential neighborhood.
I know.
How does that, like, make
So I know, I mean, so
only to the plaza?
right, no, I know.
Because Gringos is like.
I know.
It's like.
So I mean, for the Gringos entertainment license, there were, a number of people that reached out in opposition and came and spoke at the hearing about the entertainment license. And like, just to give you an example, there's a condo, 217 Newark. It's literally next to Gringos. It's also next to the Capital One building that kind of got sold and nobody knows what's happening to it. So, part of the reason I'm doing this is I feel for those people, because they say, look, I bought here, I'm on a main strip, but it's bars and restaurants, it's not nightclubs. Then all of a sudden they could have a nightclub on either side of it, right? They could have Gringos and someone could turn that bank into another nightclub. And all of a sudden they're saying to me, like, well, I bought this condo and, I looked at the rules and now I got 2 nightclubs next to me. So
I guess, I'm gonna say there's less people visiting restaurants because they're only restaurant bars.
I mean, I think you get at 1 a.m.
Councilman James Sullivan.
It's okay.
This ordinance tells them very, very clear. You gotta tell the people in that area, you're gonna be changed, but you're not gonna be improve the current problem, but we can prevent the future problems. That's what it is, this ordinance.
We need to wrap this up. I need to get some dinner.
I know, we all do.
Oh my gosh.
Let's go
It's like
all
the
night.
marathon caucus. Let's go.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Imagine if this started at 6 o'clock.
Didn't we see the lunch menu?
I'm glad this wasn't the night.
All right, we're to 10. 10 was on the last agenda. It's moving 51 Crescent Avenue that the school district had for about 20 years, made no progress. 324 Martin Luther King Drive and 174 Newark Avenue, respectively, to the JCRA. 11 we spoke about.
Hold on.
Which one?
I have a lot to say on this. I'm going to save it.
What is it?
Right, yeah, I don't want to have like an extended discussion, but like, I don't feel, just on 174 Newark, I don't feel comfortable moving until we figure out where the money's going when it's sold. Having that conversation.
Okay.
Which one?
I don't want to stop the other ones if other council people feel that way.
310?
310.
I have a concern too. This was still, we didn't get anything yet.
What? Get anything what?
Yeah.
JCRA, that the transfer land to them. Because they never present to us that what is going to be, where they're going to use the land, but.
For which one?
310. This is almost like a $2-3 million worth of land.
Newark Avenue parking lot.
They're convinced.
74 is the parking lot.
Oh, Palace Roscoe?
Yeah, yep.
I mean, JCRA didn't give us any idea, I think it's not fair. JCRA, because they do so, that they're really problem.
Did you want to talk about this now? Or?
I mean, look, I have issues with it too, but it's now 6 o'clock and.
We can talk about it at the council meeting. It's first reading, right? So.
Okay, still we got time.
Okay, we have time. Yeah.
Plenty of time to fight.
The problem is this, the next council meeting, I'm not going to be here, that's why it's a problem.
Well, you should have told us earlier. We would have put a lot more stuff on.
Okay.
All right, any second readings to be discussed?
Just one thing
Of the
for
15?
Hold on.
We spoke of
Councilperson Prinzary?
we spoke of 2, the courthouse one, yes.
For the,
Councilperson Prinzary.
right. so-
4-7.
Yeah, I'm getting that, Michael.
4.7.
Yeah, there's just 4-7,
Okay.
we had asked to change one of the two members of the community to a member of Sustainable Jersey City, and that's just not reflected on the...
Okay, and we can't do that. The law department did prepare such language, but we have to do that by amendment. And there were 3 amendments: modify language so that at least 2 voting members are members of the community. Modify language so that instead of 2 voting members of the committee is a member of the community. Another is to add language requiring that 1 voting member of the committee be a member of the Sustainable Jersey City.
Yes, sir.
And page 2, modify language to reflect the change in committee member composition.
That's the amendment?
And we'll do that
That has
as
to
an
be an
amendment.
amendment?
Yeah.
It has to be an amendment at the meeting,
Okay,
Okay,
because it was introduced, but we'll
Yeah.
make that amendment.
okay.
so we're gonna have a Wednesday,
Is
right?
it substantial?
No,
Okay.
not part of the...
No, it's definitional and,
Okay.
But we can't do it before, we have to make it an amendment
It
at
has
the
to be
meeting.
done at the meeting after the public hearing.
further Robert on that.
Okay, first reading's all done, 3.11?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So unless we have any other questions about second readings, let's go to...
I'm sorry, on 4.6. Let me just go back here. 4.6 and 4.13. So these are the reorganizations. The questions I laid out, and I know this is late, because I just came up with that as HR. I'd like to see those same questions on HR, kind of articulated for these as well. And I'm not going to belabor those same questions. It's just, I don't want to drag this out.
So just I talk about the 4.25, okay? The Peter Baker knows that. 4.25, how about the
Yeah, I reached out, I understand, we're gonna get that information tomorrow, and you'll have
okay.
it.
And then, let's see, what else we got here? Did we make the amendment to 4.6 on the qualifications?
We're gonna discuss that. Were you guys gonna bring in and walk on changes? Or no, that's the difference, right?
No,
That's different, I apologize. I got it wrong. 4.6 is the...
Recreation.
Recreation qualification, that should have been in there.
Yeah, it was supposed to be.
Okay.
Do you need me? We'll talk.
Just council members on 4.8, I'm gonna, a few of you have expressed a few concerns. I'm gonna ask the council to table it and then discuss them with you and, as well, and, revisit this in August.
So 4.8, so you say table?
Gonna table, but I'm gonna ask Robert to re-advertise it for,
After you did it at the meeting, I'll do as you asked.
okay,
Okay, so we're gonna table it before public hearing, right?
correct.
Okay.
Then if I may, I just have one comment on 4.10. This is ordinance amending Chapter 3, Administration and Government. I'm not sure if the change made it here, but it's going to request that we strike out the portion creating the office of tenant relocation. It's my understanding that the desire will be to allow that to exist in the previously existing department, so the office will not need to be created. That would not be a substantial change, because it's simply removing.
Okay, you'll give us the amended language?
Yes, if that didn't make it that, it may have already made it to your office, Robert, but if it didn't, we will make sure that happens tomorrow.
Just give us one of those cover sheets.
Because it's only one business day.
Yeah.
And bang, 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday.
And a cover sheet with that, please.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what the amendment is.
Okay.
Okay, then 4.11, so there'll be a planning board hearing on this amendment on July 23rd. So I'm going to ask the council to table this. Again, we'll make instructions to have before public hearing and have instructions at the August meeting. to reintroduce it for second reading, Robert? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
because I just only concern is that this is a neighborhood district of the George Avenue, but they changed it the hotel in the neighborhood district. I have my concern, and the parking rate supposed to be, 0.5 to change to 0.3, but today, how they happen this one? Still.
We can discuss it later.
Discuss later, okay.
It's going to be tabled.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like a table, okay.
We're talking about 4.11. I think.
Like a table, okay.
So 4.12, any questions on that?
Are we tabling it?
4.11 is a table.
Table?
So you can go more.
4.12 is yours, James,
We're
right?
not gonna be here. It's gonna be over in 1 minute.
4.12?
What about it?
Nope. Everything good?
Yeah.
Okay. And 4.4, 14 is Mira's. Everything's good. All right, resolutions
From the top,
from the top.
we have an emergency temporary appropriation. 6, 7, and 8, appoint members to the Jersey City Insurance Fund Commission. John Metro, J. Nicholas Strasser, and Brian David Platt. 11,
Can I just ask?
Vote that down.
Can I ask, is there any compensation associated with these appointments?
I wish, that'd be great. No, there's not.
There is some board where there's like compensation that comes with it.
There is one board.
Which one is that?
Council.
No.
secretary to this
Actually, there's
board.
something else. He's a board.
Secretary to this board gets a stipend,
I can
doing the agendas and what have you.
Okay, continue.
11, an extension with the contract with A.R. James and Company. That's the folks that do the bus shelters and advertising spaces.
So we're at 10:11.
Could I get information from the VA for how much we've collected in advertising revenues? Can we get advertising revenues for the bus shelters?
A.R. James.
The bus shelters?
Oh, yeah, sure.
14,
Wait, back to 10:11. Do we know? So we're saying we're getting new bus shelters.
Sorry, can't hear you.
We're saying we're getting new bus shelters?
No, this is
Or
just,
this is just to maintain the ones
This
that
is
are currently?
an extension of a contract we already have. We're gonna do an RFP for it. We have to, state law requires it every 5 years, so we just haven't finished an RFP. It's possible this vendor gets it again, it's possible they don't, but yes, the current ones we have.
you do it for us for free, right?
Yeah, and no change in charge.
Charge.
Yeah, right.
all right, 14,
Oh, but how about the 10-7? I just missed it. Who is the big cross Strasser? Did you have anybody?
Nick Strasser.
Nick Strasser,
Nick.
first assistant.
first Nick Strasser.
Corporation Counsel, First Assistant Corporation Counsel?
Yeah, the guy with the beard.
That guy.
He looks just like him. He has a beard.
Looks like he's a lot more fit now.
You know what? Don't get old.
Okay, let's keep moving. Come on, we're at the end of the line now.
All right, resolution 14, innocuous, authorizing the the risk manager to issue a letter of insurance to these folks that we're sending all these folks to for training. We didn't do 18, shared services. We did it, sorry.
But change the title.
I did scratch out some language. 21, Robert Santilli Consulting for providing maintenance and support services.
We did that already, yep.
Put a little dot next to it. Contract with the medical center to share costs and services for an enterprise platform provided by Aunt Bertha. 26, accepting funds from calendar year 2019 Clean Communities Grant. We already talked about that. 28, authorizing acceptance of grant from Hudson County Department of Health and Human Services. 29, accepting a grant from the Jersey City Department of Health to accept grants from the Department of Health, Office of Local Public Health. We did 30 through 32. 33 is a resolution authorizing the payment of a claim submitted by Constellation, New Jersey for electric generation services. Not yet. 34 through 37 done. 38, awarding a contract to Adams, Riemann and Hagen trading as Civil Solutions to perform digital map maintenance. 41, Light to Palma Greenberg to represent the city in the matter of One Journal Square Partners Urban Renewal Company LLC et al. Versus the City of Jersey City et al. 42, another.
Sorry. On 41, so we're gonna, I requested a closed session. Can I ask the administration will withdraw this till pending the closed session?
I will check to see if there's anything that's immediately pending that would require that go forward urgently. However, if there's not, I'm happy to table until to withdraw until next week.
All right, 42, Light to Palma to represent the city. Police Department, James Shea, Philip Zaki in the matter of Miguel Feliz Rodriguez, be the City of Jersey City et al. 43 is authorizing the renewal of an amendment of a professional services agreement with Charles Montaigne Esquire to provide legal counsel regarding the Conrail's abandonment of the 6th Street embankment. 44 we did earlier. 45 is the emergency contract.
Can I just ask, I'm sorry, it's not on the agenda, the embankment, whatever we were gonna do there, so.
Yeah, there was
zoning stuff?
There was
Yes, zoning stuff.
Yeah, planning needed to do another review. It wasn't quite ready.
It's
Yeah,
not ready,
yeah.
Okay, 45, contract to Sims Metal Management. That was alluded to earlier by Mr. Miller. 46, ratifying the award of a professional services agreement with the law firm Light to Palma to represent Philip Zaki, James Shane, various police officers in the matter of Leo Pinkston versus the City of Jersey City. 47, we hope to have ready at the meeting a resolution amending the calendar year 2019 budget.
Where is the 47 that you're paying?
We're introducing an amendment?
Oh,
But we have
put it there with the hope of having it ready for today. It may not happen.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's why we were discussing it today, but if they, let me just circle back and I'll confirm with everyone tomorrow.
Okay.
So not ready yet?
Well, we could reconcile the things that we will talk about.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
just confirm.
Let me just go through the last. 48 is evidence of our new CFO's work. She has gone through the books and found about almost $700,000 of outstanding checks that we're going to cancel. 49 is authorizing a license agreement.
Is that found money?
It's a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah, she got busy.
Yeah.
Just tell her that I say okay.
She's a big time girl.
She may not come back to this.
Yeah,
So end of day.
49, authorizing the execution of license agreement with WLFR LLC, granting it the right to film and distribute 13 episodes of a television series which will feature officers of the JCPD. And 50 is a contract to Kruger International, and that's for furniture for the Wall Department former library through the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission. That's all I have.
And 30, I have 51. We were given 51, Robert.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Do you have that?
It's 51?
It's 51.
Do you need it?
Yeah, let me just read it into record. I'm sure I have it in the box there. Authorizing the use of competitive contracting to procure a timekeeping system for the hours worked by employees in the city.
This is a late edition. Apologies for the very late edition here. It's just a little miscommunication from a while ago. So we're trying to get a software system that's going to manage all this stuff seamlessly. Right now, we have the hand scan, which doesn't quite integrate with anything else, and a bunch of hardware pieces that can pull this all together. Modernizing some of our systems. It's just authorizing the RFP. Any contracts or spending, obviously, to come back to council.
Nothing else?
Second.
Councilman
wait, before we run, sorry. What time is it? Time, please.
6:19.
6:19?
Yes.
I'm sure it was Rivera and Prinzary. In which order?
1 a.m.
Which order?
Rivera Prinzari.
Rivera, Prinzary. Say goodnight, everyone. Thanks for hanging in. Council Waterman had to leave at 5.
Good night, John.
Night, Mary Ellen.
Good night, Paul.